clothes on it you hardly don't wear anymore. Now even if there is a reason, though, you need to know it don't make me feel insecure. See, I don't believe there's a side of me you haven't seen, so this should come as no surprise. Although you can be a real bitch sometimes, I still get high each time that I look in your eyes. There are times when our friendship feels more like a war. Don't you know I would die for you? I've done it before. No, no. Jesus is waiting in Waterloo for me and you, with souls in the palms of his hands. So let's steal the car from that prick you know. We'll hit the road, we'll drive it as far as we can. There are times when our friendship feels more like a war. Don't you know I would die for you? I've done it before. No, no. Now I don't know what tomorrow brings. If the light will catch us, we'll hear the crickets sing. All I know is I love you more than anything. All I know is I love you more than anything. All I know is I love you more than anything. All I know is I love you more than anything, 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 anything. There are times when our friendship feels more like a war. talk to them and I'm a singer, and you're like, sure you are. That's really cute. And then they sing, and you're like, oh fuck, okay, like yeah.
Yes. I wonder if she's doing something, Susan Boyle.
I think she's retired at this point. Like I think she made a good amount of money off of 2 or 3 years.
She came there while she was retired. No.
Yeah, right. Like she got some like fame out of it, and she's got songs released like where she gets money quietly in the background. You know what I mean? Like they play your song on the radio. If you're in proper, if you get in like the real, like the Illuminati level of music, right? Like where Jay-Z and fucking Lil Nas X, like if you're playing on that level, like Adele type thing, it's you make money, like
make money.
Yeah, you know, like you don't need to do more. When I was in school for sound engineering, my teacher in the one course. Like, and these are all guys that like
You're already recording, by the way.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, whatever.
All right.
But like my teacher in like these guys were all like, I worked on DMX's last album. I've worked with Silverchair and shit like that. Like they were proper industry professionals, and they teach at this school. And I remember like on day 1, day 2, the guy came in to teach the class, and he was like, sell out as early as you can. It doesn't matter if you hate this song, like Radiohead, they hate that song Creep. But like that song pays their rent and their kids' rent and their grandkids' rent for the like it doesn't matter. Just fucking shut up and do it. Then you can sit on a beach for the rest of your life and do whatever you want. But just get that foot in the door, and then
Yes.
And I think that's really good advice. And
about life in general, not just about music.
Yeah, right. Like,
I think most of the people who make money, they have a business which is not related to what they like to do, and this business usually generates enough money for them. Mm-hmm. And then they can do whatever they like to do. If they have hobbies, they want to make it more professional, or if they want to have a certain lifestyle. You know, let's say you go to the business of garbage.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money. But who thinks about it? It's not
because
sexy,
nobody
right?
wants to pick up garbage, and that's why they're paying more and more money. They need somebody right now. And this is... But exactly, like, and then you can go to the beach. You can afford to, like, have a family and buy a house and do these things, right? And I think... like a lot of people, they do music not necessarily because they want to. Like they do want to, and they do enjoy to do it and stuff. But like, a friend of mine in Canada said this once. He's like, a lot of people don't understand. I do it because I have to. Like I don't have. If I did anything else, if I had any other job, I'd still play guitar. I'd still be doing this in the background, right? And so he goes, I'm very lucky that I can also like pay my rent with this and do things that way. And so like you got to find that balance where it is, and that's the tricky bit, is to be able to, because if you do what you love too much, then it becomes a job, and then it becomes too like you don't want to do it every day. Like we were talking about this earlier with
podcasts,
with podcasts and stuff. Yeah, it sounds fun at first, and then you're like, shit, I have to do this tomorrow, and I have to smile, and I have to have that same energy and that same like brightness and creativity. And that's the difficult part. It's not playing music. It's playing music that people want to hear. It's playing things that the crowd wants to hear. And I think that's a good line to be aware of in any industry, right? Like there's you doing what you're doing. There's you selling out, I guess, like we can call it that. Like there's you making your money, but like, I don't know, you how do I say it? Like when I go to work for music, like when I play at a corporate gig or at a wedding or something like that, I'm not playing music that I like. I maybe 1 or 2 songs is something that I enjoy to play. Maybe it's like, oh yeah, and I haven't heard that in a while, and it's cool that I got to practice that song from before, but at the end of the day, I'm playing what like the people who hired me want to play. I'm like, it's their wedding, it's their event, it's what they want to hear. And like if you don't like Wonderwall, like it sucks to be you, because that's what they like, that's what they want to play, and then they pay you, and then you get to go home and you get to like have dinner, like and pay your rent and do these things. And for me, playing Wonderwall a couple of times a week for whatever gig or what, if that's a bad day at work, that's still way better than like a good day as a garbage man. Do you know what I mean? Like that's yeah.
But also garbage people, the people who actually pick up the garbage, they make good money.
Exactly, right. And I don't make as good, but like they make more money than me for playing Wonderwall, 100%.
Probably they make way more money than us, man.
Yeah. But so you have to find that balance. That's what I mean. You have to like I could go and get other jobs to work in this country, or to be like maybe more financially successful, but also like I make enough now to not, like, I'm not starving to death. I'm not dying. I'm not like, I was in Canada, like hungry and poor, and I came here and they're like, no, you have options here. Like there's it's respected what you do as an art, and to know that, to just even realize that that is the ground is higher, like the bottom is not as low as it was back where I came from, and I think that's really encouraging, and it motivates you to be like, I don't want to play Elton John today. Yeah, but like when else would you, like I wouldn't look up how to play an Elton John song otherwise, you know what I mean? Like I got to learn something new, I got to be better at my craft. Maybe it wasn't as much fun as if I played a song I wrote or that I wanted to learn, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to just jump in on that. And yeah, like a bad day at this job is still better than the worst day or the best day at another job where you hate.
I don't know about this because music can be quite intense, especially if you work with people that you don't really enjoy working with. And then you play concert that you don't really want to play and you get very little money. It can be very frustrating.
I agree.
It can be very, very frustrating. But you know, what's really surprising from all the things that you said is that in Berlin, you feel more appreciated as a musician than in Canada.
100%.
I thought Canada is a progressive country, Canada.
It is a progressive country. And I'm not going to say there's
I mean,
not
there's
a good
some weird
music
stuff
scene.
about Canada.
I think like a lot of people who are from like this side of the ocean, they hear Canada. Like a lot of the times people hear
This side of the ocean, I mean Europe.
Europe, even like Africa or the Middle East or something like that, Asia. Like it's like Canada and America and you know even Mexico and Latin America and all these, like they're their own sort of world and they've got their own division and then you come over here and things run differently on this side of the planet. And I think it's really when, like a lot of people hear my accent and at first, oh, you're American. No, I'm Canadian. And it's always the same. They're like, oh shit, I'm so sorry. And I didn't mean to offend you and stuff.
And then they say, no, I'm sorry, I'm Canadian.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But like, no, it's really, like you can see the look in their eye that, oh yeah, that country exists. Like I have heard of it, but they forget that's not the default country that they assume, right? Like it's still really exotic and like to people over here. And so you hear like the stereotypes from Canada that everybody's polite or that it's a really progressive country and it's really cool.
I know they legalized weed in the whole country.
They did that 6 months after I moved to Germany. I feel like they were waiting for me to leave. Oh, he's gone? Like, let's fuck with him. Like,
but, I know those had weird stuff in Canada, like it was the truck drivers' strike or something like this.
Because they didn't want to wear masks for COVID.
Yes,
and stuff.
and then the people who supported them and donated them money, the government, the Canadian government, they decided to block their bank accounts.
It's super interesting that you know this, because exactly, like, this is the sort of, like, actual politics that goes on in the country that, like, this is what comes up on my Facebook feed or, like, when I'm talking to friends back home. And then I tell, like my wife is German and stuff, and I mention that, and she's like, I didn't hear about that. Like, that doesn't come on RBB 24, you know what I mean?
It's very concerning what happened there, in my opinion.
I think we are very close to the American border, and we are very... There's often a joke that, like, a Canadian is just an American with no gun and health insurance. And it's like, but other than that, it's like the same people, right? And I mean, you can go into depth. There's more differences, obviously, but like at the end of the day, a lot of the culture bleeds across that border both ways. Like you do end up watching the same TV shows, seeing the same people in the news, getting the same influences. And yeah,
like it was one country.
Sometimes you definitely, like when you cross into America, even as a Canadian, they're quite, like, they check your passport. They make sure, like the Americans are very protective about America. And even if you come in from Canada, they do their diligence. You know what I mean? They're like they make sure you're foreign. You're like, they double check. But as a Canadian, like, it's a lot easier. Like I have a friend who, he grew up in Canada. He is Canadian by all accounts, 100% Canadian. But he was born in Afghanistan. His parents are Afghani. And like English is technically his second language, but he's spoken it for like 30 years. Like he speaks English fluently. He doesn't sound Middle Eastern, but he's brown and he's got a beard, and he doesn't look American, let's say. And we both go across the border in the same car, like, right? And it's their attitude to each of us is different. Their attitude towards me changes when he's riding in my car, because they'll, oh, you're smuggling somebody in, or like, is he allowed to be here? And you do get that vibe. And then to go back into Canada, it's like a really different vibe. It's a really different, she's like, yeah, come in. Like, you're not like waving the gun in the air and shooting it. Like, then you're clearly fine. Like, they don't check your car. They don't, like, I remember one time I was in Boy Scouts, okay, and we had a bus of like 60 kids going into America for the weekend, go to like Philadelphia for an exchange thing and see America. And when we went into America, that bus was stopped for an hour and a half, and they checked all like 12-year-old kids. They're checking every passport on the bus, and they're really going.
Oh,
And yeah, you know they were
it's
really
quite strict. I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
it's more open with Canada and the US.
It's supposed to be, but
Is it easier to work from Canada and the US?
A little bit. I mean, I guess. I've never applied for a work visa in America. If I've ever gone to like play a show in New York or Niagara Falls or something on that side of the border, I've kind of just shown up. Like a lot of the time I have friends there too, so I don't even bring my guitar in the car. And so like you just kind of show up and say you're visiting friends for the weekend, and then they're really chill about it. They're like, yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Or there's casinos on the other side of the border and people come for the day. So like you just sort of show up at the border and say that's what you're doing. Like I'm here for the weekend. We might go shopping and you know, but then they take care of you on the way back if you're shopping and declare. And yeah, I've never applied for a visa. I've definitely played shows in America. I've definitely like been paid money to play in America. But it's cash and it goes in your pocket or it like goes into the bar. Like you just buy beer with it over the weekend. And so like it's never been something that I've had to tax. And so I wouldn't know about like
This
a
is
visa.
interesting.
Yeah.
I did not knew about it. I thought they're really close together, those two countries.
This is yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a free transfer between each country, and basically Canadian can do whatever they want, and Americans
It's not
can
as
do
open
whatever
as
they
the
want.
EU. It's not as like
Yeah.
to go from like France into Germany is way like 1,000% easier
Yeah,
than
the EU is remarkable.
yeah,
about it.
it's but also the EU as a whole is like as big as Canada or as big as America, you know what I mean? And so
Yes.
like when you get like one state or one province in North America, like I took she's my wife now. At the time she was my girlfriend, but I took her to like a national park in Canada. And just before we go in, you know, you park the car, there's a whole map in front. And it's her first time really exploring Canada and seeing these things. And she's looking at the map and she's like, this park is bigger than my country. I'm like, yeah, like we got a lot of free space and stuff like that, right? And so this is also the thing when you go from like Ontario, where I'm from, like Toronto type area, Niagara Falls, when you go from that province to British Columbia, for example, Vancouver type area, it's like some of the laws are different. The age to buy cigarettes or to vote or to get married, like these things change from region to region. And like for me, even going from like Ontario to BC, it's a lot like going to a different country. Okay, they still speak my language. They're still technically like my passport is still good in like we're still in Canada, but it doesn't work the same way.
It's different culture and
it's
different.
totally
mentally.
different. They have different slang words. They have a different accent.
Yeah.
Like the architecture is different. Like
Canada is huge.
it's Russia
huge.
is like the only landmass that's bigger than Canada.
Yeah, but most of the Canadian land is not so inhabitable because it's up there north, and then in winter it gets frozen.
Does yeah. I mean, some
It's
of it
frozen
stays
also in
frozen.
summer, right?
Even.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is well. Okay, so here's also Berlin is technically further north than Toronto. If you look on,
True.
Yeah.
True.
But like Toronto is colder, and Toronto has a different vibe than Berlin, like atmosphere, weather than Berlin. Like Toronto's doesn't hit. I don't know. I haven't been back in a little while, so maybe Toronto now is getting to like 32, 34 degrees in the summer. Maybe with global warming that's
Yeah,
changed.
maybe.
But like I remember the first time I came to Germany and it was 35 degrees. I'd never felt that heat before. I'd never felt the sun do that to me before, and I wasn't prepared. I did like even in shorts and a t-shirt.
You never went south to Mexico, to Texas.
Never to like South America. Never. I've been to the States and stuff like this. Like
Yeah, also Mexico, California. There is always sun. Florida, Miami.
I've been to Florida, but never in that level of heat. Never like, or like if I was really young, or we were in a pool all the time. I've never felt it like punish me the way that it did here. Like my first time in Germany, in Berlin for the summer, was like I swear I almost died. Like I was just I can't breathe, and now it's normal. Like now it's 32 degrees today, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's
Last year I was in Portugal.
Yeah.
I was in Boom Festival, and it was 49 degrees.
yeah, fuck that. That's
49 degrees, and do you know how they measure it? In the shade.
I believe that. That's
49 degrees in the shade. We were building a shop there. I have some friends there, falafel shop. It's called Veggie Pirates. So they go there in Boom Festival. Afterwards, they go to Ozora. They're crazy motherfuckers.
Shout out to Veggie Pirates for like being good falafel people.
Yes, definitely shout out to them. There is Pasha, he's one of the captains. Pasha and Snash. And also Snash is a crazy man. And
Snatch is a great name. That's
Snash, yes. So both of them are running the pirate ship, and they go
Okay.
from Boom in Portugal to Ozora in...
like they sail. It's on an actual ship.
No, it's not really a ship. It's,
Okay.
It's like a falafel stand, and it looks like a ship.
Okay,
like a pirate
cool.
ship. And yeah, so this is the main festival they're doing. They're working 24/7 in the festival, so there are always people to serve. Always there is a line in front of the shop waiting to eat falafel or something else. And in Boom, we also came there 1 week before the festival started.
Right?
So they will do catering for the crew who are building up the festival. And it's a huge festival, Boom. I think their capacity is like 40,000 people. It's
Oh
a
shit!
huge
That's like
land.
yeah.
It's really beautiful spot, but it can be so hot. It was so fucking hot. In the first 3 days, I did not wear any shirt. Not sleeping, definitely not when I was waking up. And then, like somewhere around 12, you cannot do anything. You cannot do anything. No matter where you are, you need to be somewhere probably, inside the stone or a cave where it's a bit cold and nice. But it's so hot.
This is like in Mexico or like the southern parts of America.
Yeah, I can
They have this too.
imagine.
They have the siesta. Just 12 o'clock hits, the sun is bright. You just like, fuck it. I need like,
so
we'll work
hot.
later, but like, yeah.
And it's dry as well, so
Yeah.
it's not humid. And it's, wow, it was so unbearable.
I think the opposite is almost true in Canada where like we have sometimes it gets so cold that the schools are closed, that work is closed. Like I've
How
definitely...
cold is it need to be for
My
this?
mom lives. We measure everything by like how long it takes you to drive because the trains suck and we don't care about distance. So my mom lives like 2 hours drive outside of Toronto, north. It's a small town called Phelpston. It's next to Wasaga Beach area. I don't know why I'm giving you the whole geography. Nobody cares, but it's like it's still accessible to Toronto. Like there are definitely people who like live there in this town and they'll work in Toronto and stuff like this. And there in the wintertime, it can get to like minus 25. My sister, Celsius, yeah, minus 25, like below zero.
Yeah.
And my sister, she lives most of the year even further north, in like Sault Ste. Marie area and sometimes even more north, Timmins, Ontario. There's maybe like one Canadian person listening that's like, oh, I know. But Shania Twain is from Timmins, Ontario.
No, good to know.
Yeah, my sister works in like, and it's really forested and really like not super developed, these towns and stuff. It's very rural. And she like studies the nature and stuff and like how many bears are coming back each season or like how the trees are doing growing. And she does these surveys and stuff. And she says like there are days where it can get to like minus 40 in the winter, minus 40, minus 45. And I think it's the same. Like if you live somewhere like in a desert area, like if you're living in somewhere in Africa or in the Middle East or something like this, like it can get to plus 40, plus 45, right? And everybody's, oh, but you live there, you must be used to it. Like, yeah, but it's still hot. You know what I mean? Or it's
Yes.
still cold. Like it's
tough,
still,
man.
yeah, like
Things that were outside were so hot.
Yeah.
You need to put everything in the shade.
Yeah, exactly. I was in Italy once
Yeah.
and we stood, it was 40 degrees in Rome and we were standing in line waiting to get into like the Colosseum or whatever. And my shoes are melting to the ground, you know? And this is like, and okay, there's ways that if you live there, you learn how to deal with it. You learn the
You
way
learn the
of
tricks, what you need to do in order to survive.
But like,
yes.
it's still fucking hot. Like it doesn't make it colder. It doesn't make it like easier to, you're not resistant to it, you know?
Yeah, it's like meditation.
Yeah.
I don't know about the cold because the cold makes the body shiver. You know, when you're hot, you just...
Yeah.
when it's cold, you...
I have a technique in Canada that I used a lot because I'd have to walk to school and stuff, and it's snowing, and it's the same thing where you, like coughing also. If you smoke a cigarette and it's cold, it can really hit you. I remember I learned it when I was smoking and I started to cough, and my buddy looked at me and he just went, "Don't, just tell your body not to cough. Just don't cough." And you think at first like, what the hell, like like obvious. But then you do it, and there's just this moment where your body goes, "Oh, okay." And if you can keep like focused on it, you really have to like meditate in that moment for a minute, but you just tell your body to behave itself. And it's kind of the same with keeping warm. Like, you can't tell your body to warm up, but you can tell it to stop shaking, and you can tell it to like no, I got to do something. We'll be cold in a minute, but like I have to do this. And you know, if you're experiencing minus 20 every day, you get better at it. You get stronger at these techniques. And
But for this, actually, the body does get used to it. When you're exposed to cold, the
gets
body
easier.
develops this brown fat. You heard about it?
I don't know about this. No.
So brown fat, it's fat that it's brown. It's different from fat that is when we eat sugars and stuff.
Okay, I didn't know about this at all. This explains my belly.
Brown fat is fat that's been. I'm not a scientist, of course, but you can develop it mostly when you're exposed to cold.
Okay.
Yes. So if you do cold showers, if you're outside in the cold, it just when you intentionally put yourself in cold areas, cold spaces, then your body develops it, and then it really helps the body because it's fat, so it isolates, but it's more dense than white fat.
Yeah, okay, and it like insulates
Exactly.
it keeps you warm and stuff. That's
So
nice.
you don't look fat, but it isolates you. The body
Okay.
just the mechanism of the body to do that.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out that that's a lot of like the people in Canada are having that and stuff.
Yeah, in the Nordic countries, they used to still do that. They take the kids in the baby cart and just leave them outside.
We do that with beer, like just to keep it going.
Yeah,
yeah,
they
no,
do it
fair
with
enough.
the babies. Like, everyone's sitting inside, like us. Imagine now it's winter somewhere in Norway. And we just say, oh, no, let's put the baby outside. We finish the podcast. We'll see what's up with the baby.
Really?
Yeah. They go to
I'm
restaurants.
gonna tell my wife about that because like our kid's coming in a couple of months, and I'm gonna tell her that's a technique, and I want to see her reaction.
I don't know if it's smart to leave your kids unwatched in Berlin.
Yeah, just leave them on the Zuverschenken, you know what I mean?
I got so many dark thoughts about it.
Yeah. Berlin is also, but like talking about kids in Berlin.
But let's
like
talk about you a little bit.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, you came here, we start already talking, and I think you have so many information to bring up as well, because most of the listeners are musicians.
I think so.
Yeah, most of them.
That's how I found you as a musician listening to your podcast. This is, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
yes,
thank you
man.
for having me on here. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
thank you for coming.
Cheers.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. And you also work with Matan Goldstein in the same space.
I do work out of the Boiler Studios
Yeah.
in the Riverside building with Matan. I've been there for like 4 or 5 months now, maybe a little longer. It's probably since like February or March, like just at the beginning of spring, I got in there. And it's become a little more, at first it was like kind of one day a week, and I had a place to do my stuff and whatnot. I had a home studio at my flat, and it was good enough. But then to just be able to go in somewhere where the room is better treated and the speakers are better.
Yes.
You have like 8 to 12 inputs. You can like mic a drum set. You can play drums. It's so nice to have a room where you can just play real drums. So yeah, it's at first I started sort of at arm's length from him. And then now I'm in there a lot more regularly. I'm in there tomorrow. I'm in there on Saturday. I'm like we're Matan and I have known each other a long time, actually. He's pretty much since he came to Berlin. I don't know how soon after he came to Berlin that we met, but I know it was relatively soon. And like I remember when he first took over the studio, there were other people in there, and he was like an extra body in the studio and like renting it on weekends or whatever it was. And we'd come in there and we'd jam, and we also have another friend of ours. He's an old friend of mine from Canada, Dan. And so like we'd be in there kind of all three of us tweaking the studio and seeing it grow and stuff. And then when these people moved out, I think they looked at Matan first and said, do you want to keep the room? Can we we'll give you the lease and take over it? And I remember when that happened, and it was very like to see that room grow from what it was into what it is, and to really like I to have been a part of it, like, you know what I mean, from really
Yes.
the beginning. It's like watching a kid grow up. It's like
Put your
watching,
influence inside.
yeah, right. Like I now that I'm able to like work in there and take clients in there and stuff, it's a really cool feeling to like like, no, I know these walls, I know these microphones, I know how these
Yes.
things react, you know, and I think that's a really overlooked part when you go into a lot of studios. You can have the best engineer in the world or the best like live room in the world or whatever. Like if they don't if the engineer doesn't know the gear or if like the room isn't regularly used by people who are familiar with it, who are intimate with it, like you're just sort of rolling the dice on. Sometimes you can maybe put something in the right spot and it sounds really good, and other times you can do everything right and you're like, why does it sound like shit? Why is it muffled? Why is it weird? And if you know somebody who or if somebody knows the room and they're able to go like, no, like, trust me, we point the mic at this wall and that's where it becomes clear. Or, like, I promise you, move the drums over 2 feet to the left or something like that. And you're like, why? This seems like the silliest thing in the world, but then it's clear and then it's even and then it sounds proper. And yeah, like, it's really cool to finally have a room like that. We're also where the neighbors aren't like banging on the walls and
Yes,
keep
this
it
is
down.
important.
It's Sunday. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I do work out of that studio.
What kind of work do you do?
Okay. That's a weird question. I have a degree in sound engineering. I went to Metalworks Institute in Canada, where I think I was telling you earlier. I don't know if the mics were on at that point, but like the teachers that I had were like producers on famous like DMX. This guy had like engineered DMX's record, or this guy worked with the Tea Party, who's a really big band in Canada and stuff like they had proper credits. And then there was a studio attached to the school, and they would work out of this studio full time, and they sort of built the school extra on top of the studio. And because all the people working at the studio, they couldn't get good engineers to come in, and so they built a school to sort of train the engineers to work. Yeah, it was really cool,
Really smart.
yeah. And so like you'd also get like people come into the like people are recording at the studio, and then now there's a school. You know, like after 10 years of knowing these guys, they have a, so you know you have these like high profile musicians kind of walk into your classroom sometimes. And you're trying to learn like how stereo mics work and how to like triangulate shit so there's no phase. And then Chaos comes in and he's just standing in the back of the room like, oh yeah, check out the crabs in the bucket. And you're like, what the, like, dude, this is already intimidating, and these guys were really
Interesting experience.
Yeah. And then I did nothing with that degree for like 5 years. I got out of school and I played in like garage bands and I'd like record my indie band, you know, in my basement and stuff like this. But that was it. And I didn't do anything with it really until like I came to Berlin, really, is when I started to flex my muscles with it a little more. I did a little bit of work here and there in Canada as an engineer, but when I came to Berlin, I had a freelance artist visa. I wasn't allowed to do anything not music related. So I could only busk or do sound engineering, like live sound or in a studio. I couldn't even teach music yet because the government, like, that's teaching, that's not music, right? I had to
Only
get,
performing and recording. That's
yeah, like in the music field, I had to get an extension on my visa or like an expansion to make it music teaching, and that came like a year or two later. So I really had to use only the resources that I had. Like as far as music, I gave up. I've worked a lot of jobs in Canada. I've been a security guard at a hospital where they were working on the cure for Alzheimer's, and there was like animal testing going on and shit. You take pigs through a radioactive room, right? Like as a security, and then you go downstairs and PETA is throwing blood on the doors. And it's really and the problem is like I agree with them. I'm very much like, no, this is shit, and we shouldn't be doing this to the animals. And I have to be the guy to tell you to leave. And like, you know, when people are like, oh, stick it to the man. Like I was the man, and I didn't like that thing. And I used to work for Crime Stoppers, this anonymous tip line for, you know, the people are wanted by the police, and you can call in anonymously and tell the police where they are. And I used to work at the call center for that.
Wow, this is interesting.
I've done a lot of jobs over the years, like a lot.
They're also not regular jobs.
Very obscure jobs.
Yes,
yeah. I mean,
it's
I've
not
done,
that you work for McDonald's or something.
Yeah. I mean, I've loaded trucks and shit as well, and done like all that type of labor. But like, I've had a lot of ups and downs. But like, always music was like in the background, right? I've been doing music since I was like 13 years old, and I think at some point I was working at the hospital. I remember that was the last job, like real job that I had, and just my supervisor I was working for like a third party security company. So like the security people didn't work for the hospital. They were separate. And my supervisor at the security company was really chill and really cool. But the people who worked at the hospital were shit. And they didn't treat us like equals or human beings. They really just abused the privilege of having us. And like, you know, they expected too much. They paid too little. I remember I had to work 30 hours straight one time, and because somebody didn't show up for work, and we worked 12-hour shifts.
Oh,
and I worked 12 hours, and then I worked this other guy's 12-hour shift. And then I worked like 5 or 6 hours into the next shift while they were trying to find somebody. And so I was supposed to come in after that guy. I was supposed to come in like 6 hours later. And I said, no, I just worked 30 hours. Like I can't go home and sleep for 4 hours and then come back in. Like I need a day off, right? And they were like, if you don't come in 5 or 6 hours, whatever it was, you're fired. And so, okay. Like all right, that sounds fair. And I just didn't come in, and they called my phone several times and I didn't answer. And like that was at the beginning of the month. And my roommate at the time, at the beginning of the month, was very supportive and very like, yeah, good for you. And then like the middle of the month comes and he's like, but rent. And like,
life is knocking.
Yeah, right. Like I'm proud of you, but also like, how are we gonna eat? And like, fuck, I don't know. And we lived very close to the exit to the highway. And there was a guy who you could see from our window. He would sit at the exit from the highway with just a sign. He didn't do anything. He didn't like dance or even like really walk up to the cars with like a cup. He just had a sign that said, "Give me change. I'm homeless." And people would do it. And I'd see this guy like in the grocery store and in like, I guess you call it in the Keats, you know what I mean? Like in the neighborhood. And like he'd always pay with change, and he smelled bad. Like he wasn't, you know, doing well for himself, but he had enough, and he was living. And I thought, like, I know a lot of songs. Like, I've been playing music for 15 years at this point. I know a lot of stuff, and I know what people like. I've done parties and wedding gigs and stuff, but as a hobby, as like a side hustle, as this thing. And I kind of like, I wonder, like, maybe I can just make my rent. Like, maybe I can just take my guitar and play in the subways and and I made my rent in a weekend. I made in 2-3 days, like from Friday to Sunday, I made enough to get my roommate to calm down.
Was it surprising for you?
It really was.
Yeah.
100%.
Breakthrough in
like,
life.
Because I also wasn't, like, I don't think I'm a good musician now. In the standard of who comes to Berlin and the musicians I see here, they're really top level.
Yes.
And I don't think that I match that level now as far as like performance and technicality. I was way worse 10 years ago and like way weaker. And so I'm sitting there busking, and people are throwing like bills in, $10 bills, $20 bills. And you kind of want to stop them and be like, are you sure? Are you like, do you want change or something? And they were really supportive and really like, and what I learned very quickly was, it's not how you play it, it's what you play. And like, if people like the song, if they're on their way to work and you can play their favorite song, they're going to sing that song all day. And that's worth money to them. They don't care how note for note it is.
It's the value you give them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also the same thing of like when you go and play. So like I learned to play when people are going to work, when people are coming home from work. If they've had a long day and you can give them this experience, they also find value in that. At the end of the month, we get paid twice a month in Canada. You get paid on the 1st and the 15th. And so also, you know, on those dates, people have more money and things like that. I just got paid. They're a little more generous, right? And so I learned really quickly how to like time when I would go out and play, what I would play, how long I would be there, what parts of town where people, like if people work in the financial district, they have more money than if people work somewhere else. Yeah. And so this was, I kind of had in my mind a chart of like what was good and what wasn't, like what would work best usually. It's not a perfect science, you know, you can't just guarantee it, but I knew roughly. And yeah, like I the first month I was surprised, and then I caught on to the pattern really quick. I'm really good with patterns, and when I caught on to the pattern, it was an option. Like I couldn't retire. I couldn't like just give up life, but like I could pay my rent, I could pay my groceries, I could survive. And like I didn't have a lot of money to go out to bars and go and do extra things, but I didn't want to do that either. Like I didn't have an interest in doing that, so it was a very comfortable lifestyle for me to live. And I was getting better. And you go out
Yes.
4 times a week, you play music for 6 hours a day, you
It's
get
insane.
stronger. Yeah,
For me, it's like practice that people are actually paying money for it.
exactly, right? Like, and it was really cool. And so when I came here to Berlin, I sort of just applied that same logic. I had to learn different songs. Some of the songs still work. Bob Dylan is a good song anywhere. Oasis works better here than in Canada. And there's some songs here that we don't have in Canada that people really do respond to, and they didn't necessarily make it as big over in North America. And the same thing, there's some songs in North America that didn't make it as big here. So
Yeah.
I had to like do a little bit of figuring out. But like
Did you went to the charts and you saw what was?
a little bit. What I noticed honestly was because I was living in a hostel when I first lived here for like a year. I was living in a hostel. And I would also like play on a Friday evening at the hostel. I'd play music for like 2 hours, and then they wouldn't charge me for the weekend type thing, like they would, which was also a really cool feeling to have. Like,
Yes,
you
there
go
are many
full
ways to
barge.
exchange. Yeah,
Yeah. It was a lot of, and that's the other thing. Like, okay, you didn't pay me, but I don't have to pay you. Like, that's what the money was going to go to anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, fine. Like that was a cool niche to find in Europe that I didn't have in Canada, and through doing that, you get like people requesting songs and people and you start to realize what people like because they come from all over the world. And if someone from like Slovakia requests the same song as someone from London, as the same song as someone from Spain, you're like all 3 of these people have never met. They come from totally different backgrounds, but they all like this song. It's a good idea that you can play this song in the subway and
Yeah.
you're going to get a response to it. So I started to make notes and stuff like that. And I would get up, I would leave the hostel at like 5:30, 6 in the morning. And so that I could be at 7 a.m. at like Stadtmitte or somewhere like this where tourists are coming or people.
already at 7 a.m. you would
7 a.m. I'm starting to play because 7 a.m. people are going to work. Like especially not tourists, they're there all the time. Doesn't matter what time of year they're walking through. And so I would play from like 7 a.m., maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, depends on the night before, really. And then I'd play until maybe 10, 11 o'clock. Then it's a little bit calmer. People
Yeah.
are at work and stuff. That's when I would take my break. I'd go get a coffee, get a bagel, whatever it is, like that's for me. And then at 12 o'clock, people come out, they have their lunch,
Yes.
11:30 till 1:30 type thing. So I'd go back on the clock, and then you take another break. And then at like 3 o'clock, people are getting
Yeah.
off work. And so I'd play, and I'd end up playing like 6 to 8 hours of music, probably 3 times a week. Maybe some weeks I'd play 4 or 5 days, maybe some weeks only 2 days, it depends. But like, let's say 3 times a week, but like 8-hour days of busking. And I learned a lot of new songs. I got a lot tighter. I got a lot, I don't think I'm a very good singer, but there's a tone in my voice that I know I can use. And I got good at like controlling that tone, maybe not being necessarily in key, but like having the character that I needed. Yeah.
Yeah, the character.
Yeah. That's what it is. I think it's a lot of,
It's most important.
nobody cares if you played every note correctly. Victor Wooten's got a great quote about this. He's like, nobody remembers when you played that Mixolydian lick in the 3rd bar of minute 14 of the song. Nobody gives a shit. They care how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them come back. And that was really, I tried to like do that with people. And for the first little while, I was very, I all the time, it was at the hostel. They knew me for that. Like, I'd be 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the like common area of the hostel making a coffee. And I think the first few times the people were a little like, what the fuck is this guy do? Oh, he just got home from Berghain or something. And I'm like, no, I'm going to work. And they're like, don't you play music? Like what job starts this? Yeah. And then they started to realize, and they started to like, it got to the point where they were like, they'd have the coffee ready for me because they knew I'd be getting, oh, you going to work tomorrow, Ian? And then they'd put the thing on. And so this was a really good step to have made here.
How much money did you make in a day like that?
It's weird. It depends on the station you go to. It depends on the day, the time of year. Like all these are different factors. I think the most I ever made was like 250, 300 euros in a day.
And what is the least?
The least can be anywhere from like $12. Like
For 8 hours of singing.
if I make $12 for the first 4 hours, I probably walk away at that point too, though. That's the other, like maybe in the evening it'll go up more, but like if I only made $12, it's a little bit like I'm not motivated at that point to go. Yeah. So this is.
But then you never know. Someone can come afterwards, give you a 10 euro bill.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Like, and this is.
You never know about those stuff.
Yeah. I was telling you about this before we turned the mics on. That's exactly how I met my wife. It was.
We said we're gonna keep it.
We said we're gonna keep it for the podcast,
and now we are here.
Yeah. Okay. So it was at Moritzplatz, which is very close to where we're recording this. And so I was playing there one day. It was during the week. It was like Thursday or Wednesday, something like this. And most people, when they sometimes they'll listen to the song and they wait for the song to end and they throw money in the hat. And then they thank you and goodbye. This guy stayed for like 4 songs and he's just kind of standing there with his arms crossed and he wasn't smiling. He was very German. He was just like studying me. And I thought he was about to, you know what I mean? He's just staring really intensely.
Writing notes.
Yeah, was geht ab? And you're like, oh, fuck, like this is, like, is he going to tell me I got to leave? Is he going to complain? Like, where's this going, right? But 4 songs, he let me play. He didn't say anything. And then at the end, he threw like 10 euros and he threw a bill in, whatever it was. I don't know. I have spent that money a long time ago. But he said, I really like your music. I said, thank you. You know, here's I had some stickers and stuff, like, you know, go to my website, my Spotify, whatever it is. He said, no, like, my birthday party is this weekend. You want to play at my birthday party? And I said, yeah, sure, thanks. And he gave me a business card and you know, send me an email here and we'll talk. He said, but it's in like a couple of days, so send me the email tonight. And I didn't really look at the business card. I just I saw his name, I saw the contact, and I didn't really register anything else. And it turns out it was a law firm and like his name was on the wall of the law firm. Like it was big. And so when I was messaging him and asking, like he's asking, what do I charge and stuff like this? I was really like, I don't know, $60. I'll come play me. And I brought a violin player with me at the time. And we were getting like something like, $60 to split between the two of us. And we walked in and there's like champagne on every table and like a really fancy fucking restaurant. And my violin player was like, how much money did you ask for? Like, you idiot. Like, and she like gave me shit. But it was a good night. We played well. And he ended up he was a very understanding man. And he was like, oh, here, take extra. Like $60, not enough. You really made my birthday. Thanks, man. Thanks. Cool. It's all cool. But like I said, there was a bottle of champagne on every table in the bar. He'd rented the whole bar out. And then at the end of the night, I'm drinking beer and I'm just kind of sitting on the stage. And my violin player left. She's like, I got to get the bus. I got to go home, whatever it is. It's like midnight, whatever. And this girl comes up and she'd been talking to me on and off throughout the night. Like I'd met some of the people who were at the party. And the one girl came up and she was like, she had one of these bottles of champagne from the table, not even opened yet. Like nobody.
Is it possible that the bottle were more expensive than the payment for the band?
Almost definitely.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee it. But I didn't have to pay for my drinks at that point, and I was only in Berlin like 6 months or 8 months at this point. No, it would have been a little longer. I was in, maybe 8 or 9 months, not quite a full year, and I was still living in the hostel and shit, and she came up with this bottle and said, do you want to drink this bottle of champagne with me? Yeah. I'm like, of course. Like, what kind of a stupid question is that? Yeah. And so we sat there and we drank a little bit. And the guy whose birthday it was ended up coming up and he saw us sitting there. And like, she used to work with him and things like this. Like, so he's kind of, oh, look at you two and blah, blah, blah. And, I didn't speak any German at this point, so they went back and forth in German. She tells me that he was giving her a little bit more, like, you should go for it. You should, like, yeah.
Putting the seeds on the ground.
Yeah. And she was like, no, it's just, I liked his music, right? But we're married now, and she's having my baby. Like,
Cool
at one point, this guy came and he was like, he's like, I'm going to a club. Like, do you want to come to the club with us? Like, I'm paying, like, all expenses. You come to the club with us. And I kind of...
It wasn't the same evening.
Same evening. Like, it was the end of the night, and everybody started to leave the bar. And this guy's like, no, it's my birthday. I'm going to the club. He's like 50, right? I was like, let's go to Berghain. And I didn't know about German clubs either. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's go to the club. And this girl just kind of puts her hand, she's like, you don't want to do that. I promise you, you don't want to do that. Like, yeah? She's like, yeah. And so I kind of looked at him. He's like, you coming? And I'm like, I'm going wherever she goes, is what I said. Like I'll go wherever the girl goes. And look at you two and shit. And then we ended up going to another bar. We did like just a bar around the corner. And she ordered a gin and tonic, whatever it was. She's going to hate that I'm telling you this story, but this is genuinely, I fell in love, like on the spot. She took 2 sips of the gin and tonic. She almost fell off of her bar stool. And she's German, right? And she's like, I'm going to hurl. And I'm like, nobody says hurl. Like even in my country.
What is hurl?
Throw up. It's a very, very specific, like, expression for like it's a really specific slang. Sorry?
What do you imagine when you hear hurl?
Like a very violent, like a really aggressive, like one you can hear from across the street. She's like, I'm going to hurl. And I'm like, nobody, like, you know that word? She's like, yeah, of course I know that word. And she like ran to the bathroom to like throw up. And I just sat there for a minute, like in silence. And I'm like, I can say, like, I don't have to like speak easy English to this girl. Like, I don't have to like change my express. She understands what I'm talking about when I just speak like myself, which is cool. It's really cool to come to a foreign country where it's not like your first language, and you can speak your first language like a native speaker, and people understand, right? So, and I'd never had that experience before in my life, and I was like, that's really cool. And she threw up. And I walked her back to the subway, to the U-Bahn, and got her home and stuff like this. And I asked her out again. I said, do you want to go out like Friday or whatever, like next week? Do you want to like do this again? Not in a party. And she went, no. And she said, I'm busy. I've got a very busy life and stuff like this. All right, fine. Like, okay, cool. Sorry to presume, whatever. She said, but my friends have this like art gallery that I have to go to next week, and I guess you can come along with me if you want. That's how she said it, like not as a date. I guess if you want, here's the address.
That's the German way to say,
yeah,
I
yeah.
like you.
Yeah. And then so she went to that and she did it, and we saw that, and I walked her home after that thing, and her English is still a little broken, like it wasn't perfect English, and so when I walked her back to the flat, what she was trying to say was, I've kind of been seeing this guy for the last 10 years. Sometimes I see him, sometimes I don't. It's on and off again. Nothing wrong with that. Like, it's Berlin. She wasn't expecting to meet me last week. But, like, the way she phrased it, what I heard was, that guy's sitting on the couch right now, and I don't think he's going to like it if I come in here and start making out with you and stuff. And, like what I heard was, I have a boyfriend for the last 10 years. And so I kind of, like, very sadly walked home and like, oh, okay, this is on our second date, so twice I've left a date with this girl, and like I'm like, oh well, she doesn't like me and shit. And then she went to Ireland for work for like a month and didn't like, and then she called me when she got back and she's like, that guy's not in the picture, do you want to like go on a real date, a proper date and stuff like this? And she asked me, I'm like, okay. I have roommates at this point, I'm living with somebody, and they're like, don't trust this girl, this like I moved in with her 2 weeks later.
Oh, wow, that is quick.
Yeah, genuinely. I moved in with her 2 weeks after that. COVID hit the next year, and so we were stuck in this 40 square meter apartment for like 2 years. Really couldn't leave a lot. Yeah, and nobody died. Nobody was like, we didn't get on each other's nerves. We were still here. And so, yeah, we went back to see my family for Christmas, whatever, like 2 years after that. And that was like her Christmas present. I gave her my great grandmother's wedding ring and was like, do you want to get married? And now she's having my baby. Like we're going to have a baby in like 2 months. And it's really weird to look. But like if I hadn't been at Moritz Platz, I think about that a lot. Like if I'd gone to any other subway station that day, if I had done anything differently that day, I never would have met her. And I never would have like gone this. I'd probably still be living in hostels. You know what I mean? Or totally different direction. And she's like, she's German. She's helped me navigate the German system. She's helped me understand what it's like to like not just be some Auslander who lives in Berlin and play music, but like, I want to live here full time. I want to be a proper, integrated person. I don't like Canada. I miss my family. I miss my friends. But when people ask like, oh, do you miss Canada? a lot of the times they mean like, do you miss the politics, or do you miss like the cost of food? Do you miss, like, of course I miss my mom. Of course I miss my friends. Of course I miss, my sisters and brother and stuff. Like, but I hated living in Canada. I never felt in any city I lived in any job I did, I never felt like I belonged. And always felt, ever since day one in Germany, I've always felt more connected and like I belong here and like I have a place here. And she really helped me to like, okay, if you want to stay, there are certain things like you can't just be a foreigner coasting on the system. You have to do these things. And it's been like, I feel like I wouldn't be this far without her. She's really done a lot for me. Yeah.
And the power of women, this is incredible. When you have a woman that really takes care of you.
That's what it is, though. It's like,
so some women are not like that, Some
they
women
hate
are
when you
still-
say it that way. Like, I'm not your mother. Like, no, I don't want you to be.
It's not about being the mother, It's about the empowering. There is something about the feminine energy and the masculine energy that when they are combined both and they both are very healthy.
It's a yin yang vibe. Like,
Yes.
there's a counterbalance.
It's
to
very
this.
relaxing for me, at least. When I feel someone, she's very feminine, and I can be my masculine. I can feel I'm very relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel now when I'm relaxed, I feel the energy can channel in more direct way. It's less scattered for me, and I know it's the other way because when a woman feels, a woman, it can be anyone who identify themselves as whatever they want. But if someone is more reacting
I think that's
to
like,
masculine energy,
Yeah.
and they have feminine energy, they feel more secure and more safe when there is good masculinity around them.
I think you hit also a very good point. It doesn't have to be like a man and a woman. It doesn't have to be like a penis and a vagina.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it's very, but you need these two opposite ends to balance the scales.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what it
Exactly.
is finding that balance. And yeah, exactly that. Like my wife is German. She grew up in Germany. She's very logical in the way she thinks and the way that she organizes her life and her career choice. All of this stuff is very formulaic, you know what I mean? Like there's a process to it. And I'm a scatterbrained artist who like I live in a chaotic like fantasy world. And I think alone I would just stay there. I'd be lost in an abyss. But I also think like alone, if she didn't have that counterbalance, she said it to me, like she would be too serious. She'd get too lost in this direction. There wouldn't be this thing. And we can play off of each other. We bring each other into our world and we sort of live somewhere in the middle. And yeah, if you need that in any partner, not just like a romantic partner, but
Any
like,
partner, yes.
If I'm writing music, if I'm being in a band and being creative, like that's what I need in the other members of my creativity, of my project. Yeah. Matan is very, not to compare Matan to my wife, but it's like, I remember the first time he came and jammed with us, and like he had, like, these are my songs that I've written, right? And I've played them for years. I know how they go. And he's like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this or that? And yeah, it would actually. I never even thought to have somebody that's has that idea and is also like brave enough to express that idea. That's like no, if you do it this way, it might be more fun for all of us. It might be more fun for the listener to like, you really can work on the goal as like whether the goal is being in a relationship and like building a family or building a song and writing an album or something like this. Like you do what's best for the project in front of you, and to have somebody where you can like have that freedom to express yourself, and they take it and run with it, or they tell you no, like that's too much, you can't do, like someone who's also not afraid to be like, that's stupid, don't do that. Like it's really that then the results of the work become the best results they can be. Yeah.
When you serve something else than yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, I think, ultimately what anything in life is, whether it's being an artist, a musician, whether it's being a husband or a family person, or even like if you're studying in school or whatever, like you have a goal to achieve. And, you can, if you have study partners or classmates or something who they understand that we're all trying to achieve this together. This is something like that. Then you do achieve it together, like it's not a competition.
It's also very important to have an overview and to see what the other people good at, what they're bad at.
Yeah.
And then to find, at least for me, it's like this, where I find my place. How can I support?
That's the other, like, because maybe you are good at something or something else, but maybe that's not what role you need to play.
Exactly.
In this. Yeah.
Maybe I have something else that I can do better than most of those people. It will not be what I do the best.
Yeah.
But just because I can do that, that can help them be their best version.
Like, yeah, you can also do what they're doing, but they can't necessarily bring this other thing that
Exactly.
you bring. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's all about this. I think once people go out of their egos and they don't want to show how much they know and how big their penis or nipples are, I don't know.
I've never heard somebody like nipple compare. Like how big their dick is like very.
Yeah, but what women
look at my
compare?
nips, man. Like,
What women can compare? I don't know. They don't compare vaginas, man. They don't care about this stuff. It's only male thing.
yeah, I know. Right? I have the largest areolas of anybody. Like nobody.
I bleed the most every month.
But
I don't know, man. But yeah, we need to know what we are good at. We need to know what we are good at and what others are good at. And the best we can do for everyone, including ourselves, is just to find what needs to be done and do that.
I often, like a lot of my philosophy and a lot of my direction with both my music and my personal life, like a lot of it is based on what other people have done before me. And like, I think you're a fool if you don't look at what got you to where you are already.
It gets you faster.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's books that tell you how to do this already.
Yeah.
Get to that point and
There are
then
books that tell you exactly how to do that.
Yeah, right. Like why are you wasting your time? You don't have to be that genius. Like expand on other people. And so like a lot of where I take from that or how I apply that is quotes from other musicians and song lyrics or like in interviews and stuff. And Rick Rubin, who like
the
did
legend.
Legend, right? Like
he's been talked so much in this podcast about.
He's come up so much also in like my Instagram feeds. I feel like
he released the book, that's why.
Yeah, that's what it is, and he's just paying everybody.
Doing like podcast tour.
Yeah,
I got his book.
He needs money, is what it is. He hasn't produced anybody in a while.
You think so? He needs money?
Yeah, I don't think he needs it, but like he's gonna be dead soon, and he just wants to. But he's got a good quote, and it's like, do you want to be right or do you want what's best for the music? And like you can take that logic and apply it to anything. You can apply that really to life, and like you can be right and you can still go forward, but you won't necessarily have the same result or the best result. And sometimes like what you want to do is going to end up being more harmful to you than what you should do, or like what others maybe can contribute. Like, I can play a lot of instruments, for example. I can be in a studio and record most of what I need to do for like drums, guitar, bass, sing. Like I can write the song. I don't need other people. But if I don't have other people, then it's a very one-sided thing. Like it's a very like I said with Matan, for him to come in and he's heard the songs once and he goes, "But what if we did this?" Like immediately you've opened a door that I didn't even see on the wall, you know, and there's hallways and rooms and stuff behind this door. Like there's a whole new world that I can spend so much time in from one suggestion. And it doesn't matter. Like I could have done something technically right. Academically, it's proper and it's sound and it's right. But that doesn't mean it's what's necessary or what's best. And that's really, I think to the connection that you have with others, it's really what music is, what art is. We all just want to be understood. We all just want to be like I'm not alone here, right? Like you all are feeling this experience with me in some way or another. And I think that's really what art comes down to, is that desire to be understood. And so you can't be a lone island in the sea and expect to be understood by everyone. You have to have other people come in. You have to have this connection, you know? Yeah.
It makes everything more interesting.
Absolutely.
You know, as much as someone can be studied and as much as someone can be experienced in life, there is still a limit how much they can study, how much they can experience. And if you take one person that had so much experience and knowledge, and then you bring another person who got so much experience and knowledge, when you combine them both, you don't get 2 people, you get like 4 or 5 people.
Exactly.
And this is so powerful. The power of collaborations is one of the most strong forces on this reality that we are living in.
I agree entirely. You said it earlier about ego as well, and that's what it is I think a lot of people are too afraid to be vulnerable. They're too afraid to admit that they're wrong, or that this could be done better, or to let somebody else in and give them a little bit of credit for contributing to, this was my idea, it's not your idea. And I think a lot of people tend to have that wall of ego that's built up, and as soon as you remove that ego from the equation, you have this, yeah, it's vulnerable and it's scary, and it can be painful sometimes. It's not necessarily what you want to hear, but like, you need to hear it, and you need these things, and the whole system moves forward more efficiently, more fluidly, and yeah, it's just ego that stops that wheel from really turning properly.
Yeah, it's also about delegating stuff.
Yeah.
If you have someone else that helps you doing the music, then you work half of the amount of energy / time that you want to invest in.
Yeah, that's easy math. That's
Yeah. So you have the same thing, but you spend less time on that, less energy. Even you get better thing actually, and you spend less time and energy on that.
I used to think that, because I went to school for sound engineering, and I've played in a lot of bands back in Canada as well, and I have all this experience, and I don't need anybody else to make a single or to make an album. I can record myself. I can write the song. I can do everything, like I was saying. But the best EPs that I've released, whether it's since I've moved to Berlin or in the past or anything, like the best songs that I've written, the ones I'm most proud of, 100% of them, like without exception, are ones where I was working with people, or ones where like a third party came in, or just like another voice came to be like, oh, but also I think this sounds cool, and then suddenly you have more space, the bubble gets bigger, like you just have that context that comes to the song.
Yes. I was listening to Guns N' Roses lately. I don't know why the song Estranged got stuck in my head. You know this song?
Which one?
Estranged.
Oh, no, I don't know this.
It's on the second User Illusion album.
Okay.
It's a 9-minute song. It's a masterpiece.
Okay, fair enough.
And it got stuck in my head, and I was a big Guns N' Roses. I'm still a big Guns N' Roses fan, but there was a time in my life that I was listening a lot to them, like a period of 2 years. And I was going down, investigating the band, everything. And when I listened now, it was maybe 5 or 6 years that I did not really listen properly to Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
And I realized why they are so good. And the reason why Guns N' Roses are so good, because everyone does what they like in the band.
They've got freedom to explore.
Yeah, so you hear Slash is playing guitar like Slash, and then you have the other one, Easy, and he plays the guitar like Easy. Then you hear the bass player, Duff, and you hear the drummer, and you hear Axl Rose, and everyone having fun in their own instrument. And then when you hear it as the whole band, this is legendary music.
Because, yeah, exactly. It comes together properly. And of course, there's moments where they're going to be like, okay, but if I'm doing this, you have to do, like it doesn't work if you do this and I do this, and we have to, like, there's a structure and a goal.
Yeah, there is some logic about arrangements, yeah.
But you wouldn't even have that question if it was one person writing it. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have to go through that process of finding out what works best. Like, if the drummer's playing his thing and the guitarist is playing his thing, they have to have a conversation, then they have to find how it works. And from there you find this sort of hidden membrane between the two parts that's the line they walk. Exactly. Like, I think that's the secret to any good band. I don't hear a lot of good bands anymore, because I think in Berlin there's a lot of singer-songwriters as well, or like solo artists.
It's mostly solo artists.
Yeah, or duos even, but like there's, you don't get bands so much. And I know one band who I've seen play a couple of times live. They're still like a very indie level band. They're not huge, but they're a Berlin-based band. And I think the thing that I really love about them, like, this is a band I would listen to, like, in my spare time. This is a band that I, like, even if their recordings are shit quality and it's not they're just demos somebody did in the basement, I would still listen to these songs because they're good songs. And I think the thing that makes them good songs is exactly they're a band. You can hear every member of the group doing what they want to do and bringing their piece to it. And then you hear this final thing. And at that point, I don't care if the microphone is totally clear or if the drums sound a little muffled and stuff. Like that's not. Yeah. I still get that energy from the performance.
People, yes. Yeah. You see their soul. You hear their souls.
Exactly.
And each unique characteristics. And
I think music, a good song, if whether you wrote it or whether you're listening to it, whether you're playing it, a good song, you should wake up at the end of it. It's almost like a meditation or a dream, and you kind of go into this other world for a few minutes.
But
and
you
then-
talk about the song or the actual recording?
well, the recording can be a part of it. I think.
But I think they're two different things. A good song is a good song, but also the way it's been recorded and mixed and produced.
absolutely, but
There is a big part in the journey that.
But the
leads.
recording is its own art as well. Like the engineer who did that is also an artist that you have to factor into that, right? So I think
Where do you think you have the most impact? When the song is good, or when the production, let's say the final WAV file is produced well? There is more impact there, or in the actual song?
now we're going in a totally different direction. Like honestly, I think some of the best musicians that I have heard in my life are people who are never going to get a record deal because they don't have enough followers, or they don't have like these high quality recordings that you're talking about, because there's things that the world today has determined you need these in order to be a successful mainstream musician, to have your face on the billboards.
But isn't it easier to listen to songs that are properly mixed and recorded and produced?
Definitely, but that's also because I have experience in listening. Like as a recording engineer, I can hear things on a track that like my wife, for example, wouldn't hear. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, there's a little bit of a hum on that, or there's a resonant note on that kick drum. My wife doesn't listen to that. My wife can't hear that. I can point it out to her. I can isolate these sounds and I can show her. But that's not something that if she's just got headphones on, she's going to pick out of the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's this element of, it depends also on who you're being judged by. And so like if you're talking only to musicians in a room full of musicians, like I played you a couple of songs before I sat down here. I made a bunch of mistakes on those. I definitely could have played those better if I sat down and really rehearsed and had all of the conditions in perfect order, right? And I'm sure there are people who are going to listen to that go, that C sharp minor chord he played was like, he didn't do that bar chord very cleanly and stuff. Like, but that doesn't necessarily take away from the value of the song or what people are hearing in the song.
No,
right?
absolutely not.
Yeah, and so in the same way, you can talk about a recording where, like, if the fidelity of the song isn't top quality, definitely there's going to be people who can't hear it, or who do hear it and don't like it, right? But like, it's the same way of like there's kids that won't watch a black and white movie right now because it's like that's what their grandparents used to watch. Like it doesn't look cool to them, and so it's just an old movie, and they're not like they're bored because of the color, you know. And I think then they miss out on the content, on the quality of what's being presented, and it's the same way. Like I think if you focus too much on a really really tight mix. Not to say that I think the mix isn't important or that it shouldn't be. Like there's definitely you go to the studio, you pay money for a recording. You want the best quality recording you can get, right? But like, I remember when I was doing mastering for my last EP, there's this Tom Waits album, Mule Variations, and he recorded that in a barn. And if you turn it up loud enough, you can hear like the highway in the background. You can hear chickens walking around but like Les Claypool is playing the bass on that album. And I don't think there is any recording scenario that you could dream up where Les Claypool won't sound good on a bass guitar. Like I really, it doesn't matter what you record, it's gonna be cool. Yes. And so at the end of the day, I gave this to like my mastering engineer to he's like, what do you want it to sound like? And I gave him my EP, and I said, but seriously, but make it sound like this thing that was recorded in a barn. And like a week later, he calls me. He's like, I fucking hate you for this because like it's really hard to like capture all of these little eccentricities and these tones that aren't there. Likewise, there's the Refreshments. They're a bigger band in Canada, or in North America, I guess. They do the King of the Hill theme song. They do that like, everybody knows if the world is full of stupid people. I don't know if you've heard that song, but it was big in the 90s in North America. It's one of the songs I would play in Canada, but I can't really play here. But they're a big enough band. All of their recordings and albums by today's standards are really shit quality. Like they're really basement quality and stuff. But like these songs made it on the radio. And like they're a really good band. That the songwriting is really tight, and like I would listen to these songs. Like that album is one of my favorites of all time. But it's like academically, technically speaking, if I went to school and gave that album as my final presentation, as my final, like I mixed a band for school, I would probably fail the class. Like, and so I think at the end of the day, there's definitely something to be said for the recording and the quality, and that's its own art to engineer and produce and make that. But also, I like you can't make caviar out of dog crap. Like you
Yeah,
can't like if it's bad going in, it's gonna be bad coming out.
yeah.
And if it's good going in, even if it's a bad recording, you're gonna hear the intention behind the recording. And I think
Yeah,
yeah.
this is very important. I think, but it's also very important for the people who are listening who are not musicians and do not understand anything about it. For me, at least, I want to make it easier as possible for them to sit back and enjoy the music. I don't want them to think. I want them to completely follow the journey that the music takes them.
Exactly. And so yeah, like and to that end you want to make sure the sounds are coming through clearly and evenly.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
It doesn't have to be the top mix or the best master or the most epic production, but it needs to be good enough so the people will not think, why I hear this part now with the song.
Yeah, it
You know?
can't be so obvious that it takes you out of the moment.
Exactly. There are some little hints that for sure you know about it since you're making music that are making the song more exciting. And if you're not musician or a producer, you don't really pay attention that this has happened. It can be just another guitar that you add all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Or it can be a hi-hat that it's a bit louder now, or there is a bit more reverb.
There's I had an example of
It's
something
like
that's
little
gone now.
things that
Yeah.
prepare you for what is about to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they make it easier on your ear. It's not so harsh
Exactly.
when it comes. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think but that's not just good production. That's good songwriting. That's good composing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's somehow mixed with from the beginning where the song is being born until what you hear in the end. There are so many things I think that are mixed. The way the song is written, of course, gonna affect the production and how it sounds in the end, and what mix will be good for that song, or what kind of instruments will be good there.
I think a lot of the times in the studio too, this is a very common thing where I have with people where they come in and they say, oh, I want to have this instrument, or I have this little melody part for a song, whatever it is. They have an idea. And they're like, wouldn't it be cool if we did that on a saxophone? Right? Just whatever. And then you're like, it could be. Do you have a saxophone? Do you know a saxophone player? Like no, but like let's find one. Let's get one. And then the guy comes in to play the saxophone. He's learned a song and he does it well. He's a good saxophone player. He does it properly, or she, whatever it is. But like, then you hear it in the context of the song, and this idea that was in your head, you're like, yeah, but I didn't really actually think about all the tone of a saxophone and all of these extra, like the saxophone has a lot of layers to it on its own as an instrument, right? And you kind of don't, when you have that idea in your head, that melody line, you don't necessarily think of all those layers. You just think of this like do 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 that you want to happen over the music. And you're like, yeah, but if we do that on like a piano, it's going to sound cleaner. It's going to fit in the thing. Yeah, but a saxophone's a really cool instrument. Yeah, it is, but it's not necessarily what the production needs. And so it's the same thing too, where there's so many experiments that you kind of don't know until you try. Like you have to go through
you have
these.
to go there.
And there's a lot that doesn't make it to the final thing as well,
Yes.
because it just doesn't. It gets too muddy. It gets too chaotic.
Too chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much overload of sounds and
Yeah.
sensory overload.
Yeah, there's arrangement. There's something to be said for that as well. Like not just production, not just composing or recording, but like what voice is going to express this thought? You know, like what instrument, what tone. You know, if you have a bass guitar and a bass clarinet and a kick drum and a didgeridoo, like those are like very, very deep instruments.
Yeah.
How do you make all four of those sounds happen at once without stepping on each other's toes? While like all of them sounds evenly good and tight together without taking away from the other instruments. And like the short answer is it's very difficult and not necessarily possible for every song. Like not every song is going to give you the freedom to use those four instruments. But if you take that didgeridoo and you put it on like a trumpet or something, like a higher pitched instrument, maybe you can have the same melody play, and now suddenly it's brightening up. It opens the mix up and things like this. So it's weird, like when you ask like what's more important for a song. I think that's really dependent on what song you're doing, on what you're trying to achieve. Also, like who are you going to present the song to?
Yes.
Is it a song you're just releasing on Spotify? Is it a song that you're applying to a record label for because you want them to like give you a record contract? Like it really, there's so many other things that come into it. Like what does the situation call for, right? And like I have songs that I record on WhatsApp, you know what I mean? Oh, that's a good idea. And you just sit there with your guitar or something. and that ends up being like a really good version of the song, and you're like, shit, I wish I could go into the studio and capture that same magic in the studio, right? And then you try and try and try, and it doesn't ever hit that.
Yeah,
right?
the magic is the most important.
That's what
Without
it
that,
is.
the song doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It will not do anything.
Yeah, and the magic's the hardest thing to get.
Yes,
like
it
you can't just make that happen. You can set everything up properly. You can build a magic circle. If we can keep the magic analogy going, like you can draw the pentagram on the ground and light the candles and make the incense happen. Like you can do everything you can to summon the magic into the room. That doesn't mean it's gonna come. Like that doesn't mean like it's still up to the demon whether it answers you.
Yes.
You know.
And then you're sitting on the toilet, and all of a sudden, bam! Inspiration.
Hey, you called? Like, yeah. So it's a really, that's, I think also what I love about art is I've done this job for a long time, and it's still unpredictable. Like you can learn so many things about how to do this and the
very
science
dynamic.
behind it. Yeah. It's still a different day at work every day.
Yes, and every person is different. The way they approach music, the way they write stuff, the way they think about it. So it's very also challenging, I would say.
You
to
play a
work with
song at the
people.
beginning of the day, and then you play the same song at the end of the day. It sounds different. You know what I mean? Like it's really a very personal in that moment
It is.
every time experience. That's what I love about it. It's really like, and like I said, it should be a meditation. It doesn't matter if it's good or if it's bad. Well, it does kind of matter if it's good or bad, but like it doesn't like necessarily. It matters if you channel what's necessary for the moment. It matters like you could make a wrong note, you could make a mistake or sing out of key, but if you do it properly for the context of the moment, you have a good product at the end. You have a good result.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's
It's about sharing the experience that is happening at the moment.
100%.
I heard, I don't know from who I heard that music album, it's like a snapshot of this moment.
Yeah.
So you take, let's say, I don't know, let's take Metallica, for example. Let's take their first album, Kill 'Em All. I think it was 82. So this album represents the time they spent until this moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a memorial, a memory. I don't know how to call it in English, but this is what we did so far, and now we continue. And then the second album came, Ride the Lightning, and this is the snapshot until now.
And you can see the growth between those albums. You can see what they've learned and what they've kept and what they've
Exactly.
discarded. Like it's really, you can watch. It's an organic creature. The music is
Exactly.
alive, and you
Exactly.
can see it grow and breathe. And like and likewise, you can take that. Maybe in 20 years, everybody in Metallica is too old to play music, or they're all dead or something. But this music is still going to be there, and the recordings will be there, and there might be bands playing those songs. And then they might have their own way of interpreting these songs or re-recording these songs. So the song itself, the art stays and continues to breathe and live afterward. And yeah, like that's I don't know, it's a really cool thing to feel a part of, to realize, oh, I contributed to that, or that I was a part of this, or it was a part of me, I think is a better way to say it, you know? It's like it defines like my music, a lot of it, I don't really write songs for me or for other people. I write them for me. I tend to really write songs that I want to hear. And maybe my taste changes as I grow. I start listening to different types of music, or I get better at playing a certain thing, so I play more of that, or I write in that way. But like the music that I write and that I perform, most of the time, like unless it's a wedding gig, it's for me. It's a therapy. It's a part of my growth as well as the growth of the music. And so this is like it's a symbiotic relationship that we have with our art, where we really kind of like, as much as I'm writing the song and I'm controlling if I get loud here or what I'm saying over these chords, right? That is at the same time affecting how I'm looking at the world, or how I'm feeling at the end of the song, or during the song or something, or what I'm able to give to the audience in that moment. Like the music is writing me as much as I'm writing it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a really cool, you don't really necessarily realize that on your first day of guitar lessons, you know? Like
No,
you just, this
it
is
takes
a D.
years to crystallize and actually become reality.
Exactly. And then once you can become aware of that, you can use it. Like you can it's a tool that you have on
It's a
your
very
belt.
spiritual tool.
100%.
And I think for me, it really changed my mind. Going back to Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose is a bit fucked up person in his mind.
You know,
And I was really into that. So that's what I was hearing most of the time, his world view, the way he looked at the world. And I kind of took it with me.
yeah,
The way
you
they-
put that out into the world then from there. That's how you express the
Exactly.
world. Yeah.
But the way he sees the world, it's not the way that I want to see the world. But because I heard his text and his words again and again, it became my reality.
How long did it take you to like sort of be aware of that and to come to terms with like changing? Because it's a hard thing to change when you
It's
realize
really
that your
hard thing to
heroes
change.
that you disagree with your heroes. You know, it's
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, like-
I don't know where I realized that, but I think when I really started to integrate it into my being,
Yeah.
it was when I heard Anderson .Paak. You know
really.
him?
Yeah, I knew Anderson .Paak. Yeah.
I heard his Tiny Desk concert.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it, and it just blew my mind. And I thought I need to get more of this. No, who was it exactly? No. Sorry. I'm confusing it. A friend of mine told me about his album Malibu.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a great album, Malibu. And I heard a little bit about it, and then a friend of mine, another friend, told me about his Tiny Desk concert, and that really locked me into Anderson .Paak. Like, who is this person? All of a sudden, you see him playing there, looking so cool with his sunglasses. He got some other 3 dudes playing with him. All of them are amazing players.
Yeah, it's a tight.
Especially the
yeah.
keyboard guy. He's so insane. And he's just playing on the drums and rapping and playing impossible stuff and rapping impossible things. And it makes it so easy. And I was so triggered by that in a good way. And I thought, okay, I need to study this person. Who the fuck is Anderson .Paak? And then I start really to go into this album, Malibu. And there is a song. It's called the Bird. It's the one that opens the album. Do you know this one?
No, I mean maybe I'd have to hear it. I don't know song titles so much.
It really opens the album. It starts with the drum.
Yeah.
With
I
the
think I
snare
know that.
kick.
Yeah.
And then he sings, "A bird with a word came to me, the sweetness of a honeycomb tree. And now my luck is taking over me. I couldn't fake it if I wanted to. I had to wake up and to make it through. I got my patience and I'm making do. I choose to follow what the greatest do." Maybe I messed it up a bit, but
That's a really good sentiment. That's a really good like there's a philosophy in that. Do you
There
know
is
what I mean?
philosophy in that,
Yeah.
yes. And it's different than just blaming your ex-girlfriend about making you feel miserable, you know? It's
Yeah.
a way different state of mind to go into that.
I agree.
And when I heard that, it made me feel a lot of emotional stuff. You know, first the realization that there is something else, and then the realization that I was basically fooled by myself, which was a big realization to have.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I started mine is kind of hip hop related too, but like in the same vein, like my father was very classic rock, and you know he grew up in the 70s and stuff, and you know rap is not real music, hip hop isn't real music, right? And I believed that for the longest time, especially when I started. I was playing drums and singing, and I was like, yeah, rap is not real music, which is to me now is such a weird thing for me to think in that context. And then I heard. It was Atmosphere. The band is called Atmosphere. They're a hip hop group out of Minnesota. And it was the first time I'd ever heard a hip hop song where they weren't singing about like doing coke and getting bitches and hoes and making money. Like these were like relatable topics, like really like things that everybody has to go through and really personal experiences. Like you really get brought into the story of these songs. And I remember thinking, like, I didn't know that music could be this way, let alone rap music, right? Like, I didn't realize that it could be this deep and sort of expressive lyrically. And I really dove into, like, the hip-hop music from that era, where, like, Atmosphere and Sage Francis and Aesop Rock and stuff. And I really got, like, into it for a long time. And then I started writing my own hip-hop music. Or like rap songs and stuff like this, like that one I did earlier is like it came out of those moments. And I remember my dad hearing, I think it was even that song that I played, like I was rapping at one point, and he was like, what the hell are you doing? That's not real. What are you doing about that? And I tried really hard to explain to him that it's not about the delivery. Like, it's about the content. It's about, like, I could say exactly the same words, but if I did them in key, you would think this is genius writing, right? But like now I'm just doing, now the rhythm is coming out of, like, it's more about the rhythm than the melody, right? And exactly, it became a philosophy that I didn't know I needed, that I didn't know, like, was missing. And you really, there's a light bulb that turns on where you're like, oh, the world is bigger than I thought. Like, there's stuff over there that I didn't even know. It was just like a dark part of the ocean, and now we've got lights on it, and it's and the ocean is huge, you know, like it's endless. And and it was really, I don't know how else to explain it, but it's a very, very cool moment. And I know exactly what you mean, where you take, like, the views of the music you're hearing, or the crowd that you're running with, and that, like you're sort of a part of that environment. You're a product of that. And
there is the saying, tell me who are your best 5 friends and I can tell you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most more to say, tell me who you spend most of the time with, and then I can tell you who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
And we are frequency. People sometimes don't think about it, but we are frequencies. You know?
I like that. That's really cool. Yeah.
If we think about it in the most scientific and fundamental way, so we go for our atoms in our bodies, which makes our bodies. You know, it's not something that someone can say, no, it does not exist. We know it happens.
Yeah.
And just the fact that the electron is spinning around the atom, it creates frequency. And this is frequency. And then we have so many frequencies that in the end, it makes us as one big harmony of a lot of frequencies, right?
Yeah, it changes the rate of vibration or interacts with the other. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's not just us, right? We're not living in a vacuum. There are many people and many stuff around us, and everything got frequency. And with guitar, probably you know this. Oh, with snare drum, this is the most easiest example to have. When you're playing in a rehearsal and there is the snare on the snare drum is on, and someone plays the bass, you hear it vibrating, right? And everything influences everything. Some influences more, some influences less. But everything is influencing everything. Some things are more easy to influence, some things are difficult to influence, and who we spend most of the time with, they influence us, and we influence them if we have strong enough energy, of course. And music is something that we spend a lot of time with. Music and TV, watching content, and I think in this it can really catch us sometimes off guard. You know, because the music can be so good, but then the man or the woman, they're just crying about their life, feeling like complete victims.
Yeah, the actual content of it is not.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then because we love the song, we hear it, we sing it, and it becomes our reality.
But exactly, like, when I say, like, it's about what other people hear, but what other people take away from it. Like, that's exactly it. Like, people don't necessarily hear these academic things of, like, the song being really good. They hear something they can relate to.
Yes.
And especially if it's the first time the first time you ever broke up with a girl, right? Like, it's always a sad moment. Well, sometimes it can be a happy thing, but like you know what I mean? It's usually you're like, oh shit, now I've broken up, and you have this heartbreak. The very first time I felt that heartbreak, it's the worst thing in the world. This is literally the worst I have ever felt in my life up until this moment, right? And so when you hear somebody else that's also experienced that, when you hear a song about this heartbreak, it's, number one, it can be very powerful to, like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not, like, of course you connect with this. But then how did they deal with that heartbreak? What did they do about that emotion? Like, is it a song about moving on and being mature and growing and seeing yourself in that light? Was it just this person? Did you maybe have is it partly because you suck that you broke up? You know what I mean? Like, these are elements of the song. Or is it like a song about, no, I just want to stab that bitch because she broke my heart? And you're like, that's a contact. Like I've never felt this sad. How do I get over it? And the song, the art will influence that direction.
Yes.
And then it takes a lot to, like, because that's the first programming that you have for this. That's like the first time that your brain registers what to do in this situation. And it's Pavlovian. Like you come back to it. Like as soon as you
Yeah.
feel it again, you're like, oh, but that's how I solved it the first time. And it takes a lot to change that programming.
This is very accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's really, and I think that's exactly like when my dad says, "Oh, hip hop music isn't real music." Like that's what it is. He grew up in an era where that's sort of the programming that was given to him, and like he didn't know any better than to try to reprogram or to look outside of that bubble. And now I think it's been so reinforced over 30, 40, 50 years, whatever. Like
Yeah, this is the truth.
yeah, right.
afterwards.
Like how could it possibly work in another way?
Yes.
And to even suggest that it works in a different way, like look, I have proof that it works in a different way. Like I can show you the data. That's terrifying data. Like that's like you're literally destroying his reality.
You're
at that
threatening
point.
his whole existence. with
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's how
and
it feels for him.
Yeah, 100%. And you almost can't blame that person for being defensive about that. Like,
Yeah.
like why should they jump into this It's self-destructive. That's what they see it as. And why should they give you their soul at that point? And
That's
you
so
just- Yeah, you
How
have
we
to
get
like.
fixated on something with our minds.
It's very easy to do. It's
It's
automatic.
very easy. Yeah.
I teach kids a lot. I used to work in a music school with like an Akita doing the music
Mm-hmm.
program here in Berlin. But I've been like working with kids sort of my whole life. My mom worked in a lot of different schools growing up. She was always the secretary at a school. And so I'd come into school early with her. You play with the kindergarten kids before class starts or something like this. And I learned very early that like kids they don't know anything. Like they don't perceive the world that you and I do. They don't have the context to. When a kid drops his toy, or like falls over, and they act like it's the worst thing in the world, it is. Like so they've only been around for 2.5 years. This is the worst thing that's happened so far. So you have to kind of you can't expect them to have your level of coping mechanisms, to have your degree of like don't worry, it'll be fine. They don't know that. They have no evidence to suggest that it'll be fine yet. They've never recovered from this yet. That's the next step. And so it's like with kids, it's a little bit. It's a different thing because they're children and you can't communicate with them. But like that feeling never goes away. Like with adults, like once you hit like 30 or 40, like that's still there. Like that part of the brain where they're like, how do I deal with this? Or what do I do next? If they've never had to do it before, if they've never had this experience, like, of course they're not going to have this chemical release in their brain that goes, don't worry, just chill. It'll be good. Like they don't have that, safety built into their brains yet, or in for whatever specific scenario is. Like people can be really good at some things and really bad at others, and it's just a lot of it just comes down to experience. If you do something over and over again, it becomes smaller, it becomes less scary, it becomes less of a challenge. It's
Or it can be scary as well. It depends what you do. Addiction, for example, it's the other side of the scale.
but then you're building it up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's
It goes both way, I think.
100%, which is why like life is about balance. And you talk about ego and not letting that get in the way. Addiction, I can stop anytime I want to and stuff like this. Yeah, but you're not. And it's not because you don't want to. I say this to a lot of my friends lately. I grew up in Canada. I smoked a lot of weed in my life. I still do. But like I would always say smoking. Like I like to smoke. I like to have the thing in my hand and go through this. But like now I'm going to be a dad soon and I'm in my mid 30s. Like I'm older. I feel it. I'm not as healthy as I used to be. And so I've tried to move into like edibles and more like that.
I'm scared of edibles.
Yeah, a lot of people say that, and I don't blame you. But this is
It's based on experience.
totally valid point. But like whenever I say this to like my fellow potheads, I say like, no, I like to eat an edible, and everybody says the same thing. Yeah, but I like smoking. Like even if the edible does the job and it's a little bit healthier and you feel your lungs clearer, I like to smoke and I like to that. Like yeah, but you're reinforcing a habit that you know is bad. Like you're like you're looking at me saying with a straight face that you have no interest in changing the direction that you go. I'm not saying like eating like edibles is the healthiest way to go or that it solves all the problems. But like when I say like, oh, there's no elevators in Berlin and I live on the 5th floor, and since I've stopped smoking weed, it's a lot easier to climb the stairs. You know what I mean? It's just my lungs feel cleaner. Yeah, but I don't think I can do that. I don't think you can. Nobody thinks they can do it. That's why you have to take the leap, right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
nobody, and
I don't know, it's maybe a bad example, but it's really like, it's a very obvious way that I hear people go like they just tell you that they're not ready. They just tell you they don't have an interest in changing how they are. They've
It's very hard to change how you are.
100%, yeah.
And it takes so much mental effort. And for some people, it's just not worth it. They don't see the goal in the end. Or
They're
the
comfortable.
benefits.
They're like, I've gotten this far. I'm happy in my space, my bubble, like this is what I know, what's familiar. And ultimately, when you compare that to like, that's exactly what happens when a kid freaks out. That's exactly what happens when like a 2-year-old loses their bunny. They're like, oh, where did it go? Where did it? It's under the bed. You just can't see it. Just take a breath. But they don't have that thing, like, because their world is only so big. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. It's music is the closest thing I have to a religion. And like, I go to this open mic every Wednesday. Not
one?
so much recently. The Lakshmi Bar open mic on Wrangelstrasse.
What is it?
Lakshmi Bar. It's right by Schlesisches Tor here in Berlin.
So it's Kotzberg.
Yeah. It's not far from here, but it's and I think it's gotten a lot more popular. When I first started going a few years ago, there was like 10 people that would go there.
Is it good? There is some weird vibes.
So awesome. I think it's not for everybody. There's no microphones, there's no amps. It's really just you and your guitar.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Like there's no, and a lot of people, I think, when they go to an open mic, they want to tell you the story of why they wrote a song. They want to be understood. And an open mic is not supposed to be for professional musicians. It's supposed to be for just anybody who likes to play guitar. So I totally understand that part of it. But at the same time, like, if you want to tell me a 10-minute story about why you wrote this song, if you want everybody to be quiet and attentive and focused on your art and what you're, book a show. You know what I mean? Like book a gig.
Isn't the song the story?
Yeah. That's David Lynch has agreed. He's like, after you show a movie, everybody wants to talk about it. The movie was the talking.
Yeah.
Like this, what don't you get? And exactly that. And I think there's something to be said for like when you go to a bar where it's just it's just you and a room full of drunk people. And the later you play in the night, the later you go, the more drunk people there are, the more people don't care. Nobody should be expected to care about your art as much as you do.
Yeah.
That's not fair. You can't put that burden on people. And so like, it's really a matter of if you're on and these people are just in the back drinking and not listening and you don't have a microphone, you can't just be louder than them. You have to like physically be the character that's loud. That's kind of on you. And that's a skill that a lot of musicians, I think, don't work on. I don't think that's an element. A lot of people, they play music because they want to play music, because they want to have this inward meditation. It's a very personal experience. It's a very selfish experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as soon as you have a crowd, as soon as someone else is in the room, and like, especially if you want them to pay you, like, then you have to include them in this. It's not about you anymore. You are like the least important member of this equation at that point. And that's something I think a lot of musicians tend to, that's where ego comes in again. And you like, they can't get over that. They can't get outside of their bubble. This is what I did when I practiced in my living room. Why can't you just let me do it here? Because we're not in your living room right now. And that's, yeah. I forget why we started talking about this. That's not necessarily the point I wanted to make, but I'm glad I made that point. A lot of musicians that I find in this city they're very good musicians. They're very strong, talented individuals. They're better musicians than me by a landslide, but they're very difficult to work with because their egos get in the way, and they like, that's not how we do things here. And it becomes a competition instead of a brotherhood. And that's like, and then, like we said, then there's no community, then the art falls apart, then there's no communication, there's no connectivity, which defeats the entire purpose. And frankly, you can't, it's not how this business works. That's not how the job works. If you want to say that you do this for a living, you kind of have to work with other people.
Yes, definitely.
So, yeah.
Especially today, since everything is so easy to do by ourselves.
Yeah.
I think this is why it's even more important to work together.
This is, 100%. That was a big thing about leaving Canada. At first, when I left, there's a great music scene. But if you're not established, if you're not already like in the music scene in Canada, it's very difficult to like make a name for yourself or break into that scene. Like there's a lot of this ego that gets in the way, and people want to say, Oh, you got a show at the El Macamo? You know, I'm playing there next week, and they won't come to your show. They'll be really mad if you don't come to their show, but they won't come to your show. You know what I mean? Like, and there's like, look what I can do. Look what I can do. And the first time I came here to play,
And they're established artists,
as much as they are in the scene, like there are some artists that are
local famous.
yeah. There's like local famous, and then there's bigger famous, like Billy Talent or the Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah.
They've had the success of being able to leave Canada. You can say what you want about Nickelback, but they're famous worldwide. Like
They're a great band. I don't know why the internet hates them.
honestly, like
I think it's just internet thing.
yeah, like
There
it's
is no
good
reason to hate
songwriting.
them.
It's well produced stuff. I think they've made some bad choices in the PR over the years.
Maybe, but they're a good band.
I
Great singer.
will say this much is that anybody who voluntarily married Avril Lavigne, you should question some of the other life choices they've made. That's probably not the only mistake they've made. But anyway, like they're not a bad band. They're like by all definitions and accounts, it's tight music, it's good recordings, they're catchy hooks. Like
And they sell.
they do everything right as far as a record label goes. Like they're a dream. But like they've made it across the world. You know what I mean? Like they're not local famous. And I think if you go to like Toronto or Montreal, there's a huge like underground punk scene in Montreal, and they're really good bands, like top notch bands that just really are not going to make it outside of that scene. And frankly, the money it's not as good as it is in other places. Like it's not like it's terrible money, but like you're not going to make Nickelback level money by just playing the Montreal Jazz Festival every year. And like it's a punk scene, and I think the other thing with punk music is it's all about the attitude, man. And like there's guys, I don't want to say names, but like there are definitely guys I've like worked with and played with and stuff who like they're proud that they don't have a passport. And it's like, well then, like I guarantee you, if you brought your band to Berlin, you would skyrocket. You would be so good. You could do the entire. They would fucking love you here. And like he doesn't have an interest in getting his passport together because that's selling out. And you're like, well, okay, then you don't want to leave your bubble. Like you're telling me that you don't want to grow, which is fine. Like I'm not telling you how to live your life, but at the same time, like you don't get to be mad that you're not growing. You don't get to be upset that there's a ceiling, you know?
Yeah, usually it's like that. Those are really angry about not growing and not having enough opportunity. They are the ones who are not doing so much. And
They don't
all
walk
these
outside their
limiting
door.
mindsets.
Yeah. And when I first came to Berlin, it was I think that was another thing that attracted me to this city. Certainly the first few experiences I had with playing shows here, playing open mics, booking my own gigs, even busking, there was this connectivity. People respected what you were doing as an art. Like it was
People
a valid
appreciate
career
that.
choice. Yeah, like they say thank you for playing a song, and you're like, I didn't write it. Like whatever. Like it's And like, no, but you really made my day. And that alone makes me want to go tomorrow and do it again, you know? And it makes me feel like I didn't make a mistake to like leave my family across an ocean, you know? And I think there's still that element in Berlin, especially where I think in any music scene or circuit, you have people who've been on it for long enough that they're like, I'm on top here. Like this is my house and you're a visitor, right? And so you still have that sort of competition and conflict and stuff, but it's a lot less. Like I think growing up in Toronto and having to deal with that, and you come here and people give you that same attitude, like you're not nearly as intense, you're not nearly as much of a threat as these people who were like gatekeeping the music community back in Canada. Like I feel like I was tempered in fire, and here everybody's playing with like wooden swords. It's like, yeah, it's fine. Like whatever. Of course you're going to be competitive. It's like, I don't want to take food out of your mouth either, but like, yeah, it's if you're not going to try, then
Yeah,
why you get
I
out
think
of
there
bed?
is enough for everyone. I think
100%.
There is so much. I really don't think that if someone is successful, we talked about also earlier, that if you're successful, you not necessarily take from someone else. You know, it's just a matter of this is your time to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you can do it with someone, or you can do it by yourself. And if someone else is earning less, it's not because you became successful. It's because they just became bad, or they're not on top of their game all of a sudden. There is someone more stronger, and this is life.
My music teacher told me a story once when I was in high school, and he was like, they interviewed the greatest clarinet player in the world, whatever. I don't know the exact, but he was like the best, top-ranked, world-class, #1 clarinet player in the world. And they interviewed him, and they said, "Oh, now that you've made it, you can stop practicing and stuff." And he's like, "Are you kidding me? Now I have to practice more than anyone because like now I have the spot. Like tomorrow, I'm not practicing now. I might get off the interview with you, and somebody's tried to beat me already. Like now I have to defend this castle."
Exactly.
And that's a really like, yeah, like you can't just hit first base and start going, "Yay, we won the game!" Like no, there's like the rest of the field you got to run around.
Yes, there is no finish line basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like
you reach some place and then you keep on reaching another places, but there is no finish line. There is no holding hands to the sunset. And
yeah, exactly.
Now I played. I reached this skill on the guitar, and that's it. I unlock the achievement and. Now I get money or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
When I realized this first, I think I was 17. I did not play guitar for a while. And then I realized, oh shit, I'm not as good as I used to be. I need to keep maintaining the level of playing.
It goes away if you don't.
Yeah.
It's the same as like if you don't speak a language for like I learned French in school every day for 13 years. We'd speak French for an hour. How can you not at least speak a little bit of French when you come out of that system, right? And I haven't had to speak French for like 6 years because I moved here, and also the French we learn in Canada it's dialect, like it's different from France here. But like it's not been practical. I've been learning German. I've been doing other things, and my sister can still like she stays in Canada. She was already more in the French program than I was back in Canada, and she can still speak very fluent French. And I remember talking to her like last year. And I tried to, like, we used to speak French to each other a little bit because then our mom wouldn't understand and we could make, like, we make plans to go out and party, like, at the dinner table.
Man.
Secret
that
language.
Your mom cannot understand you. Wow.
Yeah, and you could just be like, "Oh, you want to go to the park tonight? Like Andy's having a party. Do you want to?" You could just say this at the breakfast table, and mom wouldn't know.
Wow,
right? 12
that's
o'clock,
the ultimate joker, man.
And so I tried to like speak to her in French, and not a word of it could come back. I don't know. I just keep switching into German because that's.
But you do remember something.
I remember,
and probably if you will practice, it will come back faster than
like
if you start.
Somebody asks me a question, I have like an automated answer that's like you don't even realize that you're saying the words. You just know that that's what you say to this question. Like, yeah, and if I sat down and did it, it would come back. But like right now, my brain goes, "Don't speak English." And then the answer to "don't speak English" is speak German because I'm living in Germany. I'm growing up. My kid is going to speak German, and I really don't want her to have that skill with me where she's at the table and like, "Oh, we're going to sneak out and dad doesn't know." Like, I gotta learn to speak German better than my kid.
Yeah, that's what at least makes me feel better about if I lose any skill that I have. I know that if I put the time back, I can learn it faster. There is this muscle memory or whatever it is. So it can also help.
They say it's like riding a bike. You never really forget. Yeah, but if you don't ride a bike for 10 years, you're wobbly. You can't do tricks yet.
Exactly.
It's there's that part of it. I don't know. But it's always growth. It's all about growth. Like you said, you have to always be moving in a direction. Because like if the machine stops turning, if the atom stops bouncing and vibrating around, right, then we don't exist by definition. And so like you have to keep things in motion.
But it's even more because the momentum, it's something that it's very difficult. It depends what you're trying to move. Yeah. But if you're moving something big, it's very difficult to start moving it. But once it's get going, the momentum, because there is so much mass, the momentum is so big that it will be very difficult to stop it, right? And this is what most of people that are trying and they have so much struggle with succeeding and whatever they want to be successful with. I think this is where the problem lays down, because when the momentum starts rolling, they feel I achieved. I made it. I can put the gas a bit less, less foot on the gas. Yeah,
it's the exact opposite though. That's the
that's the exact opposite. Because if you keep on going, then you have the compounding effect.
Yep.
And the compounding effect, it's also a law of the universe. It's like gravity, it's there. And if you ignore it, you don't say anything about it. You just show that how you cannot, how you don't use this law.
And then they say the same thing about like when they do that and they take that foot off the gas. Oh, it never works out for me. Or there's always, it's just my luck and stuff. Like, no, there's no such thing as luck. You have to.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, you have to build it. You have to make what you want.
Luck is an excuse for lazy people to justify others people's hard work.
Exactly. I really like that. Can you say that again?
Yeah, luck is excuse for lazy people to justify others people's hard work.
That's I really like that. That's a lot. I agree entirely.
Yeah,
It can be
you, man.
intimidating to start the card, you know what I mean? It can be scary to think like oh, I have to,
it's scary.
yeah,
It's uncomfortable.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, of course it's
It's
not.
very primal as well.
If it was super easy, everybody would be doing it all the time, and then, yeah, but like that's bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's taking action even though you're afraid, despite the fear.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is like a lot of people. They go, it was the same for me when I started working in the studio here in Berlin. Like, do I want to take over with this? Do I want to start? I don't have any clients. What am I going to do? Is it going to cost me money? Is this going to be a terrible? And you can let all of these little worries and fears overcome you, and then you can let the darkness take over, and you just fall into the fetal position on the ground and shake. Or there's a good story of like guy's lost in the woods and he's with his horse, and he says to his horse, "I can't see a way out of the woods. It's too dark." And the horse says, "Can you see your next step?" "Yes." "Okay, take your next step. And as long as you can see your next step, eventually you will get out of the woods. Like, it doesn't matter what direction you walk, you will eventually get out of the woods." And I think that's exactly what it is. You can see the next step. You can see the next level, the next goal. You don't have to achieve, I'm going to be a musician, but I need 50,000 streams and I need this many followers and I need like all of these things. I'm not making any money off of YouTube right now. It's too many things. Like, there's too many goals at once. That's too many. Which of those do you want to happen first? Which of those does it make most sense to happen first? Like which of those will, if it happens in this order, will it make the next step easier and easier? And so like, what's the next step? What do you need to do right now? And then once you do that, what do you need to do after that? And then eventually you get the followers. Eventually you get the streams. Eventually you get these things. And then you sort of look back and it's been 5 years of pushing in a direction. And you're like, oh shit, I didn't even realize. If you look in the mirror every day, you don't see yourself getting older. You don't see your beard growing. You don't see the wrinkles form. But you look at yourself now in the mirror, and then you look 10 years ago in the mirror, you're like, shit, I'm older. Like you see the effects of it. Like, but you don't see the progress when it's so small, when it's so minute. And it's the same thing with it's your career, it's your art, it's your passion. Like, we talk about putting your soul into this. If you're going to put your soul into something, then like, how dare you give up so easily? Like, how dare you like be so like, then you didn't deserve it in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, you really should, like, I want to do this with my life. Well, that's a big statement. That's something you need to really like understand the depth of what that implies.
Yes,
and,
man.
Yeah,
I completely agree with that.
yeah, I don't know.
But it's also it's nice to say those words, but those words are not so true. Because there is also a state where you do something, but it's not enough. And a lot of people think, oh, what I do is enough, what I do is enough. I agree with that. Everyone can do whatever they want. But if someone really want to have life-changing experiences and they really want to go into places beyond their wildest dreams, you need to make a lot more than you think.
I agree entirely. Like,
And,
this
yeah, we can take the example of... let's say I write songs. Okay, so I can write 10 songs and then I can say, all right, no one liked my songs. But I wrote songs, so I'm not a good musician. But the truth is you need to write 100 songs.
Yeah.
And then you can have 10 songs you can be proud of and you can put it out there. And it might not even be enough, so you need to write 500 songs.
You have to mine a lot of coal before you get a diamond. And I think this is, like...
It's a good saying.
It's a very easy thing for people to go through the first steps and think that's that's the only steps, that's just like opening the door is the same as walking into the hallway and walking to the end of it. And it's not. It's like exactly like you said, some people, their standards are too low. This is another thing I found in Canada is I would surround myself, not all the time, but often, regularly enough that I noticed it and it began to, like, I realized other people who, they were good musicians, they were good songwriters, they were friends, they were helpful, they were, but like their standards were too low. They didn't, like, we recorded it, it's fine. Yeah, but it doesn't, that kick drum doesn't sound good. Oh, it sounds good enough. And no, but like that's not gonna, you want to be competitive now. You want to be, to stand out against 1,000 other people who are trying to do the same thing as you, who have more resources than you, who have the ability to do this better, just right from the ground, and they can do it better. And like, you have to realize where you sit on that meter and where where you want to sit and what it takes to really climb that ladder. And you have to surround yourself with people that you want to be like, that you want to achieve the level of, like that you can't just be around other people who, oh, we wrote a song today, now let's smoke a joint. Like, no, like that's not like you want to be the best, or like if that's truly what you want, like it's totally okay also to not want to be the best, to not want to be at the top of it. Like it's perfectly understandable to be like, no, I write music and it's enough for me. I take what I need.
I don't believe in that, because those people who say that, they say it's enough for me, but they're still making a lot of effort into making music as their main income, and maybe they don't make enough from music.
I think that's different though. I think they're lying to themselves. If they like when you talk about an open mic, there are people who like have a day job and they want to just go and play some songs because that's how they unwind. Like, I had a long day at work. I get to play Robbie Williams on the guitar tonight, and that's enough for me. Yeah. That's different, right?
Yeah, as a hobby, it's different.
Yeah.
As you want to take it now professionally.
If you want to take it professionally, that's a totally 100%. Then there's, but this is exactly when we talk about things like Gemma or things like this, like exactly that. People want to go really far with something and they don't want to do the groundwork. They don't want to put in their time behind the scenes. Like, and the terrible reality of it is, and it's not pleasant, but it's true, the music is probably the least important part of being a professional musician. Like,
this is so true, huh?
Yeah, like this, like it's how, like, Rihanna didn't get paid to play at the Super Bowl. Like, realize that. Like, Rihanna made less money for playing at the Super Bowl than like you did for that Pass the Hat gig at the bar last weekend. And like, people go, how can that be? Okay, but Rihanna made money on performance royalties, the GEMA, let's call it. Like, that's where the money came in from. Rihanna got, do you know how many streams Rihanna got after that because she advertised herself? Do you know how many people bought a Rihanna t-shirt or like bought tickets to a gig where she did get paid for that? Like, this is when they talk about exposure. That's exposure.
This is to pay with exposure.
Yeah, like, and you know what I mean? That's a gig. But like realize that they didn't pay a dime to have her walk onto the stage. And that's, and a lot of people, like, or let's take it down. Let's not talk about Rihanna. Let's talk about streaming, and just like everybody's talking about sync placement and getting their songs on Netflix or in movies and ads and stuff like that right now. I've done a lot of writing for small ads or indie films and stuff like this, a little bit of composing here and there, and I've never gotten like a royalty credit. I've got my name, like, I'm on IMDb for a couple of things I wrote. I've gotten paid for doing those things, but I don't get like a check every month from a song that was used in this movie, because that would cost the production money. Like that's if you did that for everybody who contributed a song, and every single, like, 500 people went in to make this movie, like there's not 500% of the movie to be cut up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, how small would the percentage be? You like, people talk about wanting to be streaming to get money on sync, right? And then you get a sync contract, and it says, yeah, we own this song, we can do whatever we want with it. And everybody's like, yeah, but it's my song, it's my art, and it's my. You clearly don't understand how this works. Like, you're going to be paid for this. If you can negotiate something different, then go for it. It's a contract. Right now, it's your song, so sell it for however much you think it's worth. But then it's not yours anymore. Once I sell you my t-shirt, it's your t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, once I sell you my song, it's not my song anymore. And that's really what it comes down to is people are like, yeah, but then that's ripping us off, and that's ripping, like that's not fair to the artist. In some ways it is, but like music has never been about being paid by the stream. And this is such a weird myth that people talk about now. I don't know where it came from. Like, oh, I got 10 million streams, but I only made like $20 off of that. If I bought your album back in the day when CDs were real, or like iPods and stuff, like MP3s and like records, if I bought your album for $20, you'd be lucky as the artist if you got 2 of those $20. Like
you'd be
back in
very
the day.
lucky if you got anything.
You know what I mean? And I could play your song 100 million times at home, and I wouldn't have to pay you each time I put it in my CD player. I wouldn't have to pay you every single time I repeated your song on my headphones. Like it's never been per listen. So people turn around and they say, "Oh, there's 10,000 streams." Yeah, because everybody in the world can listen to it at the same time.
Yeah.
And what you don't appreciate is there's 8 billion people in the world, and more than half of them have the internet. So at any given point, like 5 billion people can listen to your song once. And then suddenly it says 5 billion on the thing. Okay, fine. But if 5 billion people, maybe you get paid for that one, but if 5 billion people listen to your song twice, why, like, it's never been that, like, why should they pay you twice for the same song? Why should they're only paying $20 a month for Spotify anyway? Like where do you think all of this money is coming from? Who like we got to pay the people who run the website as well.
No.
You know, like the math has never been in the favor of the artist. It's always been merch sales, ticket sales, royalties, advertising. Like the song has always been a commercial for your product, and your product is the artist. Your product is the brand that you have, and this is like, then the song is like a nice little 3-minute commercial for what you get when you come see me live, and yeah, some people make more money from commercials than others. Fine, like some people have better lawyers, you know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, like the money has always been in these extra things, in the brand, in the and nobody as an artist, everybody runs away from that word brand. Everybody, especially in this, like, look how much I studied and look how good I am at playing jazz music. Famously, jazz music pays like nothing. Like it's never been.
Yeah, even
Buddy
the big
Rich
ones
wasn't making good money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the
Like,
big ones are not making as much money as we think they are.
Miles Davis was going hungry. You know what I mean? Like nobody has been making, like, you just romanticizing this idea and you were never there for it. Yeah. And I think this is why when I teach things about Gemma, we do this course semi-regularly where it's like a beginner's guide to the music industry. And we really start from like the ground level of like, this is what copyright is. This is what licensing is. This is what the difference between them is. This is who has a claim to what, depending on how it goes in. Like technically, if you go record at a studio, technically the engineer has a claim. Like you didn't record that song. You wrote the song, but like I made this version of it. I made it with this tone on the guitar, with this reverb in the background. That's the engineer's art. That's not the
Yes, the
like,
choice of microphones.
yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like that, the artist had nothing to do with that. And so like technically, like they are entitled to a cut when that particular version of that song is. It's why Taylor Swift is suddenly re-releasing all of her stuff she's re-releasing her masters because she was 12 years old and didn't know how to read a contract. And then she suddenly turned 30 and was like, oh, that's not fair. You're right. It isn't fair, but it's never been fair. It's never been an industry that promotes fairness. And what you're doing right now isn't going to change anything because most of your listeners don't appreciate this stuff. And so like this, when I really try to teach people, like I was telling you earlier, like I make money from Gema off of open mic nights in this city. Like it takes them a couple of years because they have to send the money to Canada and Canada has to call me, and there's like, you got to fill out forms and stuff. But like if you're playing original songs that you wrote and that you've registered and you can claim 100% of the royalties on, Germany is one of the few countries on the planet that really actively polices that.
Yeah, Gemma is really good.
They're really diligent about it. Like if
they
you play
take more
Spotify
royalties.
at a bar, that costs money.
Yeah.
And like that's okay, there's problems with the system. Okay, it's a little bit corrupt. I'm not gonna dispute that element of it, but like at the end of the day, like there is money. Like I refuse to play Gemma shows. You know, shit, you're not making any money. Like this, you're actively taking a step back from that, and I think that's a really big and important thing that people start to play music because they want to feel connected, because they want to play a guitar. It looks cool, or maybe they think the girls will start talking to them, or we're going to be rich and famous. Like whatever their motivation is, they don't start playing music to be business people, to be managers and executive types. Like that's a different mindset. It's a different brain. And yeah, the system has fallen into disrepair. There's a problem. We need to fix certain things. But this myth that like, oh, somebody listens to my song 10,000 times, I should get $10,000. Since when? Like at no point in history has that ever existed. And if you look at the numbers as they are at the current state, it doesn't. There's no money in the budget for that to begin with. Spotify could take a smaller cut. We can argue a specific there, but like you still wouldn't get 10 grand for 10,000.
Actually, if you were smart in the 80s, like Steve Vai, for example.
Steve Vai's good. Yeah, I read a thing about him
Yeah,
recently.
he learned from Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa told him, no matter what, keep the rights of your masters. And he recorded everything himself. He had a little bit of budget, so he got gear and made his own studio, and then he recorded everything there, and he owned everything.
He did an interview with Ultimate Guitar recently where he said, like, I always made sure that, like, as the songwriter and main contributor, I got paid the most out of, like, all of the people who worked on the project. It's my music, so I got paid the most. Not that they didn't get paid any, but, like, I made sure that I got my piece. And exactly, really smart thing to do. And that's
He's very smart, Steve.
John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin. He did Zumba Records. I think it's like a division of Universal or Sony or whoever Led Zeppelin was. But like he realized that Led Zeppelin wasn't getting as much money as they deserved for their, and he made his own. When he started releasing his own independent stuff, it was under his own label. That like a lot of artists do this. Prince famously, like that was Prince's whole thing. Was like
true.
That's why he changed his name to the artist formerly known as Prince, because that's what you were in the contract. You were just the artist. You were just this nameless thing that the record company could make money off of and not contribute to. And he's like, fine, if that's all I am to you, then that's what you. And he made it a symbol. He made it something that like they didn't have on their typewriters, so that like how are you gonna write that on your? How are you gonna sign a contract with me now? And like it was just to fuck with them.
I did not knew this.
Yeah, it's great. But at the end of the day, that man got paid for his work, and it's not that there's no money involved. It's just that
There is a lot of money involved.
Yeah.
There is the story of the Backstreet Boys, if you know the story.
Oh yeah, where they made like 20 grand for their entire career.
Yeah.
Lou Pearlman fucked them entirely.
Yeah, and all the food and all the gourmet restaurants and all the expenses the production and the label had, they paid it from the salary of the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, and then they finally, after like 5 or 10 years, got their first check, and it was like 20 grand.
And then the same manager also made NSYNC.
And he played them against each. Oh, you don't want the gig? Then he put NSYNC on there, and they fought.
And they did
There's
not
a really
know
good
about it,
documentary
yeah.
about this. This guy, Lou Pearlman was his name. He died in prison but he even was like, oh no, I own my own airline. I have like this super successful
Who's
label.
this guy? The Virgin owner?
No, Virgin is Richard Branson.
Yeah, wow, this guy's insane.
Yeah, he's insane. No, Lou Pearlman like was the manager and like the mind of the Backstreet Boys. Also like 98 Degrees. He made the boy band like model. He created that like formula.
All right.
And he did NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, the Spice Girls, like all of these were based on his thing. And he'd like bullshit his way through things. He'd like his friend built model airplanes, and this guy like took from a business card like his logo and like glued it to a model airplane and like went to an airport and took a picture of the plane like taking off with his logo on it and just like forced the perspectives, but he's like holding the plane and he's like, look, I own private jets and stuff, come, I'll sign you to my record label. And that guy was the reason we have like I Want It That Way.
This is Max Martin.
Yeah, he did the right.
Yeah, he's the genius behind it. They were just instruments for Max Martin.
Yeah, but you can't put Max Martin on a stage and like you need pretty faces. You need something that the audience will connect to. Like they were genius business people, but that's what it is. They were business people. They weren't artists.
They made great business out of it.
Exactly, and that's like they were artists in the business, but not like in terms of the music and in terms and that's. In this day and age where anybody can have a DAW to record, where everybody plays guitar, where you can go on YouTube and learn all of these things, the competition is so strong to be, and there's no reason for you to be ignorant now of like
it's
how
the
to
easiest
do this.
it's ever been to make music.
100%.
In the whole
to release
history.
it to the world. To do like I could, if I wanted to, go home right now after this interview and go on my computer, put a beat together. I wouldn't need to there's 50 different free beats I could just pull up from that come with the program. And
YouTube, man.
You know what I mean? Like here's a program. I can have a robot mix it if I wanted to. I could have an AI program do it for free if I wanted to. And you could take every other person out of the step. And by this time next week, it would be on Spotify.
Yeah.
And that's like it's so easy
For the whole world to stream.
Anybody.
No matter where you are, as long as you have internet.
And this is for free. You don't even need the Spotify membership. You can probably
True.
yeah.
True.
And this is the other thing a lot of people don't appreciate is like I don't pay for Spotify. I don't have a Spotify membership. I live in Berlin, and a lot of the music, a lot of the art that hangs on my walls, like everything I have, these shoes, like they were given to me by friends. They were gifts from other artists that I know. They were like so like I don't listen to music on the radio anymore. My wife does because she's not involved in this community. But like you know how many new songs I hear in a week from like going to open mics or working in a studio. Like I get songs stuck in my head that nobody's ever gonna hear, and like, I don't need to go and find it somewhere else. Why should I pay Spotify for this? Like it's not. It's already working for me, and if I'm not paying Spotify, I know there's other people that aren't, and
Isn't it annoying to hear all those ads?
yeah, 100%. That was the whole thing about the internet. We were supposed to like get away from commercials, and now I have to watch a 30-second YouTube commercial if I want to learn CPR. Like it's an emergency, dude. Like it's like yeah, I hate it. I hate the ads. I hate all of these things. There's a band called Fugazi. They used to be called Minor Threat, and they're a big punk band. I don't think they tour anymore, but they're famous as a DIY punk band. I actually did some work with a documentary about these guys not too long ago, quite recently, and I even said in the documentary there are they were famous for do it yourself, and if something wasn't gonna be cost effective, if they couldn't afford to do something, they wouldn't do it. They came to play the show, and they would go as far as they had gas money to go. They would tour as much as they were able to tour. If they were going to lose money printing 100 t-shirts, if they knew they weren't going to sell 100 t-shirts, they didn't print 100 t-shirts. They didn't print any t-shirts. Like they didn't and so like if you got a t-shirt from them, like you were in the right place at the right time, and you had these like, and it was a very do it yourself attitude toward the music. And this band got really, really big and really famous, and there's like this cult following around them because this myth came around them, and we started to hear stories. Like growing up, this band was like on a mythical level. They were this magical unicorn that lived in America. And did you hear that they didn't even pay for gas? They like sucked the gas out of somebody else's car to make the that's not true, but like you'd hear these stories, you know what I mean? The ball gets rolling and stuff, and then it just creates a big monster, and you don't know what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool brand, you know what I mean? That's a really cool, when we talk about like an artist brand, that's a brand. And like, but it's also you couldn't buy a CD if they ran out of CDs. Like that's what limited time only means, you know? Like there's not a re-release of it 10 years down the road.
They print only a certain amount.
Yeah,
and
there's
that's
200
it.
CDs and you weren't in Kansas that day. Like, guess what? You don't get to listen to it. And it's before, a lot of this was before or in the early days of streaming, like back when Napster was like how you would get music. This is also a fun fact. It's weird. Side note, but like Napster pays the most money to artists. Like if you're
Today?
if you're streamed on
Are they
Napster,
still active?
Napster
Wow.
pays. Yeah, it's like a streaming service now. Like legit, you can buy a Napster membership and your songs stream on it. Napster pays more money than any other streaming service.
Crazy.
out
How
there.
much? Do you know?
Oh, it's like a cent or a cent and a half or something like that. But like yeah, per stream, which is ridiculous.
Cent
like
and a
when you-
half. It's
per
triple
stream.
time from Spotify, even more
That's-
than triple.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
What quadruple? than
Napster
Spotify.
and Apple pay the best.
Yeah.
Easily.
But
Maybe, like,
it's still
Napster
not
even pays
really
more
worth
than
it.
Apple.
The money from the streaming, it's not really money. The
You
stream
can't
money.
like. It's nice at the end of the year, you know what I mean? Or every couple of months you get a paycheck and you're like, oh, cool, I can buy Christmas presents this month, you know. But like, it's not. You're not gonna retire off of streams anyway. And like, think about it.
It's more like likes.
Yeah, it's
Streaming
likes
is
on
likes.
Facebook. It's ego. It's just like
Yeah.
it's people jacking off in a corner. That's all it is. And sorry, not to be so aggressive with the language, but that's really what it comes
can
down
talk
to.
however you
It's-
want.
Yeah, like for those of you listening and not like seeing it, I'm also doing gestures as well. It's good. There's a whole stand-up routine with it. But like, no, it where was I going with that? Is yeah, like for streams, you don't. Like it's all about ego. It's all about telling people that I made this money, but it's not. There's no business motivation for it. There's no way to like. You can't retire off of that. You can't really grow as a business off of that. You. There are avenues. There are ways that you can make a little more money from Spotify or from streams and stuff, but also that's not necessarily what people want to do as an artist. Like
Yeah.
like meditation sounds or like ASMR, these background music things. Like that makes more money off of Spotify than any other genre of music. And a lot of singer-songwriters just, they don't want to do that because, you know, this is, they want you to hear their thoughts. They want you to hear their philosophy. They want followers that think they're the next Paul McCartney. They want adherents who would swear they saw them levitate like at once on stage. You know, like you want to start a cult and not a business, and that's a totally different way to approach life. And I think that's
It's a very good distinguish.
Yeah.
I did not think about it, but this is very true. Yeah.
like that's what they want. That's how they want to behave. And I don't know. It's if anybody could pay $50 to put their song on the Rap Caviar playlist of Spotify, this exclusive playlist for this genre of music. If I could just give you $50 and then my song's on there tomorrow and it's got 50,000 streams a day, then everybody would do that.
Yeah.
And then that playlist wouldn't be exclusive and it would defeat the purpose of it entirely. So like it would by definition remove the value of the playlist. Yeah. And so like you can't just take these shortcuts. They don't exist. Like anything that looks like a shortcut is probably just leading you to a dead end or a longer way around, like a really deep puddle that you have to now swim through. And like it's a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there is no shortcuts, but there are many things to leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And this is completely different things. I think people might confuse them sometimes. You know, if I hire someone to do something, it's not that I'm doing a shortcut. It's I have leverage now. You know, if I'm a producer and I hire someone to mix the music instead of me, then maybe I can produce more artists. And now someone else is doing the mixing. So the job is being done faster and more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a shortcut, it's leverage. And there are many things we can leverage our music. You know, social media is one of them, attention.
Absolutely, yeah.
Better is leverage.
Mm-hmm.
When you do stuff better, you have automatically leverage.
Quality, yeah.
Yeah.
That's but it's and like you said, it builds a community. Like we're talking about
and this is so
connectivity.
different than thinking about shortcuts, because shortcuts, it's like I don't do those stuff and I expect something to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's, I don't want to do hard work. Well, good luck with that. Like you let me know how that works out. That's a really, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a full-time musician for about 10 years. Like not another job. I have been working in the music industry for closer to 20 years. And I say this to all of my students. Like, if you find a better way than what I'm telling you, like right now, like the way I'm showing you is the best way, is the shortcut. If you find a better way, tell me about it. I want to know. I will start using that shortcut.
I want to know as well.
Yeah,
Please.
do you know what I mean? If you think
Comment
you've
somewhere.
got something, fucking enlighten me. Then we've got some. But like, I've been doing this for 2 decades. I promise you, this is the, like, there's not a better way. And if it looks like there's a better way, you got to think of, well, why haven't my heroes done that? Why haven't my influences done that? Why haven't other people done that? Like you hear a lot about, oh, you know, I did this and I got 10 million streams on Spotify. Yeah, but I still never heard this artist's name. Like, I still don't know who this person is. Why should I trust you? Like, why should I believe you? You're clearly trying to sell me. Buy my book. It'll tell you how to get famous like me. Yeah, but I've never heard of you. You're not famous. So like, what can your book really tell me? Like, it's a really weird, and there's so many predators in this industry. There's so many people that know that you put your heart and soul into this, that you really want everything to work out, and that you're willing to do anything. Like, I'm willing to die for my art, which is terrible. Like, why? There are so many better things to die for. Like, there's enough art. You like, yeah, don't throw yourself on that sword. But anyway, like it's, people know that people are that passionate, and they'll capitalize on it. They'll take advantage of that. And like, you have to be wary of traps and snakes at every turn. And yeah, the best way to do that is to walk slowly, to keep your eyes open, to stay focused on your goals, and yeah, like deal with it. You can't just run down and hope to make it.
And also, delegation is not it's not as easy as it might seem like. It's not just I found someone to do mixes and he's doing the mixes. Yeah, I can give someone else to do mixes and it will do horrible job.
That's
and
the
then I
other
will
thing,
have double the amount of work that I need to do, because now I need to find someone else to do the mixer, or I need to mix myself all of a sudden.
Not even double. It's more than that, because now the client that you're working with is like, well, what the hell did you do to my song? You ruined it. And now your reputation goes away. Now you got to do extra work to just prove that you didn't.
Yes.
Like,
the moment reputation gets a bit stains, this is so difficult to fix.
100%.
And also when people want to delegate something, there is also no shortcuts in that. If you want someone to mix your song, look for 10 people who can mix your song,
Yeah.
and then choose the best one to work with.
Yep. I was really lucky in that one of my very close friends, when he moved to Berlin, he's part of the reason I first came here. I was coming to visit him. He lived in Berlin for a long time. He said, come visit, come visit. And when I came to visit him, I ended up like loving the city, and I stayed in the city, but he is a very good sound engineer, and he's a very, very talented person, and he's at the point now where he's worked with some very well-known and high-named artists and stuff like this. And so I was really lucky in that when I started to work in a studio environment here, and when I started to do more outside of like just being the artist, just being the guy on stage, when I started to take these other roles, I had a really good sort of role model, like a really good sort of picture of what that type of person does, and a high standard, like this person knew how to make quality work. And so it was lucky for me that I was able to sort of model my structure on that, and if something was too much for me, I could say, oh, I'll give it to my buddy and he'll mix it. It might cost a little more money. You say that to the client outright, like, you want me to mix it, it's this price. You want this guy with the better resume to do it, you got to pay his prices. That's between you and him. But like, I had that option. I could offer that to a client, right? And so it was definitely something that worked in my favor and helped to get the word of mouth kind of going. But at the end of the day, it's I've also made a lot of mistakes going in there. I think also I wasn't doing studio work when I first came here, and a lot of people don't associate Moves Johnson with being a sound engineer or with being a producer in that way. Like, I'm that guy that shows up and either plays the really fast songs, or I swear a lot, or I do the rap songs. Like, I have things that I'm known for, but it's not necessarily these other things, like these things that I do most. I make a lot more. I produce and record a lot more than I'm on stage, a lot more than I'm songwriting at this point. And it's to build that reputation, to get that momentum going that we talk about, is so hard in the first steps. Like, you have to push that ball so hard before it starts to roll on its own.
Especially if you aim really high.
100%, yeah.
And the beginning is very intense and tough.
It's really, and exactly like one bad stain on that, and the ball rolls so far backwards.
Yeah.
You have to go play so much catch up, and yeah, it's like exactly that. If you really want to do this with your life, if you want music and art to be the thing that you pay your bills with, that you feed yourself with, that this is your the air you breathe, you have to go slow. You have to take it seriously. You have to, like, shortcuts are just laziness. Like, that's exactly what it is. You're like, oh, I don't care to put in the extra work that all of these famous people put in. Yeah, well, maybe that's why they're all famous. Maybe that's why they're doing better than you. And
sometimes they don't even know that this what hard work is really like. You know, so they do the shortcuts. They still do work, so they're working, but it's not enough.
And they feel proud of themselves because they did do what they thought was enough. And you can't really, like, ignorance is different. If you don't know that there's more, it's your responsibility to learn as much as you can. But if you didn't know in that moment that there was more, I can't get mad at you for doing as much as you thought you needed to do. For you put everything that you believed needed to happen into this. So fine. But the second you find out that that's just the tip of the iceberg, then like,
go deeper now. Yeah, definitely. And I hear it many times about people. I think the most thing that I hear that people should have doing and don't do, it's the Instagram. I should have doing more Instagram. I should have doing more TikToks or whatever it is. And then you really see what they're posting like, and they post once every 2 weeks, once a month.
Yeah.
And you know, there's so much noise in the internet, and who will notice you?
Well,
you know, as the artist, if you're not making noise and constantly putting yourself in front of those people who follow you, they will forget about you.
I think there's a level of quality over quantity, though, because, like, you can have 10,000 Instagram followers, but if nobody comes to your gig, you know what I mean? Like, there's, like, that's kind of where the money is.
Yeah.
Like, Smashing Pumpkins, for example, they only played festival gigs for, like, the first couple of years. They really only played shows, and there was, like, 2 a year, but they made sure that those 2 shows a year were in front of, like, 50,000 people. And like, there's something to be said for that versus we play every weekend at a small bar, at a small venue. This is another point.
But you need to start somewhere.
You have to start
I really
somewhere.
doubt they started already with 50,000 people in festivals.
They started it, but like they started as openers on festival gigs. I think they
Really?
had like the influence of like they certainly had a local following in Seattle and stuff. But like they like when they started to get their, I think when they got their record deal. That's the other thing is record deals work differently as well.
Yeah, you get so much connections all of a sudden when you are signed.
But like it's I think when they started to get that momentum, they were like, we need to advertise this product. It's what it is. And so they didn't do this every weekend on like the radio. They went to festivals, they went to targeted festivals to like all the people who like this type of music are gonna be there and they're gonna tell their friends about it.
Yeah.
And they put themselves in that position. But also you look at the Smashing Pumpkins, they were a really big band at the time. But like the Foo Fighters are still going. Nirvana still makes money. Like Billy Corgan is doing stuff right now. He's still an active musician and nobody talks about him. So maybe there is something to be said for they're not doing it quite the right way, right? But maybe he also sold out early enough that he doesn't care if people are listening, right? So there's that. It's all about what you want. Like it's what your goals are. It's what you're comfortable doing. I know other musicians here who are happy to like, they'll play any show and they're happy to sort of be a dick about playing the show to like, no, this is my gig. This is what I want to do. You're in my way and they will walk over you to play this show because that's their goal, to be on these stages in front of these people, to be the best, and there are other musicians who really, they don't want to be that level. They just don't want to work at Aldi. You know what I mean? They just like, this is what I want to do. And so it really depends on what your goals are. Like, and if you can make money doing what makes you happy, if you can make a living doing what makes you happy. That's, I think, the question is ultimately what makes you happy. What are you going to be able to go home and be happy about? I used to, when I had these other jobs, they paid a lot better than when I was busking, for example, right? But like, I would drink myself to sleep every night. I hated myself. I was depressed and like less money, but like more mental health. What's that cost? Like what's that worth? And so there's that.
Maybe in the short term it's not paying off so much, but in the long term
100%
it pays off a lot.
And then you get also like I was gonna say before, you have these bars. Like there's a really good music scene in Berlin. It's an awesome music scene. There's no doubt about it. It's not a lot of money, but that's because of all the competition and that's because of the privilege to play in Berlin, right? Like it's sort of a badge of honor to be able to play here. But like if you take the same 20 musicians that are really good singer-songwriters and they go to all of the bars, but like it's always the same guys that are like inviting their friends to the same shows and stuff. At that point you're just passing the same $10 around. Like I paid $10 to get into your gig and then next weekend we had the same $10. Like you took that to pay to get into mine. Like the only person making money off of this is the venue. Like you need to expand, you need to grow, you need to put yourself in front of strangers. And the way to do that is to leave your comfort zone, as soon as you leave Berlin, you go to the south of Germany, they have money. These people still buy CDs. They don't know about Spotify yet.
Wow.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And
Wow.
like I was at a busking, I don't know if it was busking. It was in a small town in South Germany and I think it was like a church band and it was the summertime and they were like kids. They're like 16, 18 years old. They were young. But they were good. Like they could sing and stuff. And it was like a pretty girl and her boyfriend, and he played guitar and she sang. And they just organized something in the town to be like, we are a wedding band. This is what we can do. You know, summer's coming. If you need, it was nice. And they just kind of played in a park, but they organized it with the town. They went through like the community and so there was like lighting set up. There was a guy selling beer in the corner. It was a little mini show, but just donation based. You come into the park, you sit down, and they passed two little baskets around. They had two friends just walk around on opposite ends of the park and pass. When I saw the basket, I only saw one of the two baskets. And when it got to me, like the people at the table with me were throwing 50 euro bills into these one of these baskets had $2,000 in it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the other one had, but like I saw $2,000 in cash in one of these baskets. And like as soon as you leave Berlin, people ask you for $50 to play on their stage. Do you know what I mean? For the privilege of performing at my bar. And people play it. Like people will give you that money so they can come and play in your bar. And how can I compete with that? Like of course people aren't willing to pay money in this city when the artist is devaluing themselves so much. Like, because all of these artists are like, yeah, but you're going to come to my show and then you're going to listen to my Spotify streams and then I'm going to be a big famous internet sensation and I'm going to get sync work and I'm going to own all the rights to my songs on my sync. Like, they have no concept of what they're doing. And then you go to South Germany, or you just leave Berlin, just go to Brandenburg, and like suddenly you ask for $300 to play at a bar, and they're like, yeah, like, do you want more? Like and it's such a different. Yeah, they're like, are you sure? Like, will that cover the cost of gas?
This is so interesting.
It's like, yeah, and so it's a really different kind of vibe to see that. Like, when you're surrounded by this level of competition, it hones your skills. You're surrounded by such great musicians every day, and so you can't help but be a better musician and see how you. But then you're like, yeah, but can I get a gig? And they're like, yes, get in line.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, you and every one of these great musicians that you've just heard are getting paid the same amount of money to do nothing work.
So interesting about this. I was in a place close to Würzburg. It's north of Bayern.
Yeah.
And I was thinking there. Right now, I'm one of probably the best guitarists in Würzburg. And here in Berlin, I'm just another guitarist.
Just another dude, yeah.
But there, I'm one of the top players.
Like, and not to discredit this band that was this wedding band I was talking about that play. But yeah, like, I'm sitting there like, all right, that's nice, that's cute. I'll give you some money for the hat, right? But in my head, I'm like, you guys are still reading the songs. Like, I can do this set list from memory today, like today, and. You know what I mean? Like
it's about where you're more valued. That's all it is.
100%. I've played gigs where I've taken. Matan was with me at some of these gigs where you go and they find out you're from Berlin, but you're in like some small town in South Germany, and you're the Berlin band. You're the guys that came from Berlin. Do you want a beer? Do you want to go smoke it? Like, you haven't even heard me play yet, dude. Like, we could suck. Like we could be terrible. You're not going to be terrible. You're from Berlin. There's just this mystique. It's a badge of honor to be from this city. It's a resume check. It's really cool. And you can use it to your advantage. You can use it to barter for more money even. Like, look, we're coming all the way from Berlin. We're bringing this Berlin vibe. We're authentic, right? Like you can use that. But like in Berlin,
yeah,
like I said, it's like moving to Hollywood and wanting to be an actor. Like, yeah, but Brad Pitt also lives here. Like, Paul Kalkbrenner lives 2 kilometers away from where we're doing this interview. Like, you're not gonna compete with that with just you and your acoustic guitar. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You have to build more than what like is just the standard level of like.
Yeah,
you are a nameless face here. Like.
And I really encourage all of those who listen, and it might resonate with them a little bit. Go to those that you really appreciate, those artists that you really look up for, and study their life. See what they're doing that makes them so successful.
Yeah.
You know, Bruno Mars, for example, is one of the biggest artists today. And he's a studio machine, basically. He writes so many songs to so many people that we don't even know it belongs to him. He plays so many instruments.
Ed Sheeran is the same thing. Ed Sheeran writes like half the music you hear on the radio, and like in that genre. But like, exactly, like you don't see, all you see is like that one video of him where he's in a boxing ring.
And you think this is his life, this is what he's doing, this is how the lifestyle of Ed Sheeran. But the truth is, most of the time they're just in studios, grinding, writing, recording.
They say if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And that's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
Like we're still here. Do you know what I mean? Like this is like you just have a better day at the office. That's all it is. Like, even a bad day is still a better day. But you still gotta work. If anything, you gotta work 10 times harder.
Yeah, you're gonna work and you're gonna do stuff that you don't want to do.
When I said I was gonna move, I told my grandmother I was gonna move to Berlin to be a full-time musician, and her exact words were, "But you'll die." And it's like, and you know what? She had a perfectly legitimate fear there. Like there's, I might, but but if you don't do it, if you don't jump into that water, if you don't, it's exactly it. Like I go to an open mic once a week, and people are like, "Oh, you're that guy that does the rap song," and like, yeah, but that's like to be labeled that way, to be like that's such a small pinhole of what, But also, if in that moment, if I don't act like that guy that does the rap song, if I don't like give that artist or that audience member what he expects of me as an artist, or what she expects of me, like, then they're not going to come to my gig. Then they're not going to buy my stuff. Then they're not going to go into. So you still have a duty to the audience to be this person, to let's say play the hits as it were.
Yeah.
But also, it becomes such a small element of what really defines
And it
you.
doesn't really matter because you know the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Like,
know,
it
like
doesn't-
they see you only as a rapper, but you know, basically I can do all of those other stuff.
Tool's got a great song where the line goes, "I sold out long before you ever heard my name. I sold my soul to make a record, and you bought one." And like, I think that's a really good line. There's so much more depth that like you don't.
Yeah.
Most people see the surface of the water, and they think that's the like you don't see how deep it goes. You don't see
Yes.
like what's on the floor of the ocean, and that's like. But like as the artist, you're the fish. Like you know what's on the floor of the ocean. You know how big it is. You know there's parts of the ocean that you don't swim into because it's too deep and too cold and you can't do it yet. You're not a big enough fish yet. But like there's people in a boat and they're like, "Oh, look, it's so peaceful and chill up here. Oh, I caught a fish. Isn't that nice?" And like, nah, there's so much more going on under the
Yes.
surface. It's yeah.
Yeah, also one of the realizations about it was Dr. Dre. He is one of the legendary people in the world. And my image of him was just another rapper, you know, gangs and all this stuff, like just another dude who makes rap, and he became famous all of a sudden. It's only when I really started to investigate him and to study Dr. Dre that I realized the epicness of him. I once saw a video of him playing a grand piano.
Yeah.
And he was playing those really complex jazz chords on a fucking piano. And I thought, is it true what I'm seeing? This is Dr. Dre who sings about smoking weed every day.
Yeah. Because people buy the Smoking Weed Every Day album. Nobody's
Yeah.
giving him money to do that. Nobody's or to play the piano. Nobody's giving him money to play the piano, or at the very least, not like the Dr. Dre level thing. And before you heard him singing about smoke weed every day, like, do you know how many failed bands he had? Do you know how many songs he threw at the wall and they
yeah.
didn't stick to it? Like, do you know how much rejection that man had to hear about? And
Yeah.
like, if this is truly what you want to do with your life, then me telling you suck shouldn't matter. Like that, it should bounce off. You know how many people have told me that I suck, or that this isn't a full-time job, or that I should give up while like, you know how many of those people do what they love with their life? Like,
Zero of them.
Yeah, like all of them are in a job.
They're
they
just
hate.
reflecting their own fears. on
Yeah,
you.
like it's
They
not,
cannot do it, so they tell you cannot do it
Yeah.
as well.
It's not my fault that you made bad life choices, and I truly feel bad for you, and I truly hope you find a happiness in your own universe. But I've had to deal with people saying that my music was shit since I was 13 years old. Like, I don't hear that anymore. I don't hear like, "Oh, you didn't get any streams on Spotify." I've been doing this since before the internet. Like, this, like, you think I give a shit about Spotify streams? Like, it's not gonna stop me. If it did, I wouldn't deserve it. Like, it's yeah. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg is. Like, Snoop Dogg makes more money from going on Martha Stewart's cooking show than from like his fucking CD sales now.
Yeah.
And I think this is a thing that a lot of people don't realize. It's like, you know, one picture of something, like a snapshot, a single frame
Yeah.
of a movie, of a 3-hour-long movie. You've seen one little square of it, and you think you know the plot and the ending and the director's son's name. You know, and like you know nothing about the movie, and I think that's a really, the artist needs to appreciate that too. The person who wants to be an artist, who wants to be a full-time musician, needs to know that that's what they're building. Not that they're building, because a lot of them think they're just building that picture. And no, you're building a cinema. You're not even building the movie. Like, you're building the theater that the movie's playing in. You're building the seats. You're building the speakers. You're building every piece of that thing. And nobody is going to give a shit about most of it. Nobody's going to notice the type of wood you picked, but they'll notice if you picked the wrong type of wood. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and that's
When it's in harmony, they just feel good about it. They don't care what makes it in harmony, but when there is something not harmonious, then everything sucks.
nobody. I used to work for a call center, and there was a thing on the wall. It was like slave labor. It was terrible. But there was a thing on the wall that said, if you get 3 calls about people complaining about your work, then, you know, you're fired, whatever. But if you get 3 calls about people saying you do good about your work, then, you know, you get a weekend off or whatever it is. You get a little prize. Nobody calls to say you're doing a good job. Nobody calls back to be like, "Hey, yesterday that was really good customer service." Maybe one person in every million does, but like, nobody does it. everybody calls back the next day to complain about the shit guy. Like you know how easy it is to get people to complain about something? That's all people notice is when it's not good, is when it's not harmonious. If you do your job well, I think as a producer, as a musician, like if you do your job well, nobody will notice. And that's the best thing that you can aim for, is that nobody noticed. Like I have a gig on Tuesdays where I play in a hostel. Actually, I'm like the house band in a hostel, and we're just there to play background noise. We're just there to play like knocking on heaven's door as people check into the hostel. It's nothing crazy, right? But if I make a wrong note on knocking on heaven's door, somebody looks up from the desk. You know what I mean? If I play the song properly, it's like having Spotify on. Nobody cares. But like as soon as I make a mistake, like people like, oh, what the hell was that? Like that didn't feel right. That's the only time people notice.
Yeah.
And if you do it right, if you do your job right, nobody will notice, and you should take that silently and absorb it into yourself and realize that's the best compliment you could possibly be given, is you did it so good that it just came natural.
Yes. And if you're really good, people will give you compliments.
Yeah. But that's the next level. Like that's
Next
the hit.
level.
Yeah. If somebody gives me a compliment, I hate compliments. I hate me. That was a really good song. I really enjoyed it. Fuck. Now you want to talk about the art, and you're not going to
Depends on
get
the
it.
compliment. Yeah.
Yeah, like, not even like I'm happy to get compliments. I love it when people like. It's nice to know that you've connected with somebody, and for somebody to say thank you. I heard you. I saw you today. Of course, it makes me feel connected. But like, oh, that was really good. Like, tell me what inspires you. I really don't want to have this conversation. I really don't want to tell you about my hopes and dreams, because you're not going to understand.
But you can switch it to them. Then you can ask them what was so good about the song.
Yeah, what did you like? Yeah, that's I guess.
And
that's
this is
the way.
something I really like to ask, because sometimes people just compliment because they want to be nice, and they don't have anything behind this compliment. They just compliment you, so
Yeah.
you know it will be easier to interact.
What did you what did you like about the music? Yeah, I guess. But then I gotta talk to people. I know I've talked a lot to you today, but like
You just ask them questions.
I
and
don't like
listen.
talking to people. I don't like.
Are you introvert?
I am. I think in a lot of ways, like there's nobody here. It's you and me. We got a microphone. It's fine.
Actually, you know how many listens now I have in my episodes? I think this episode might get above 700 listens,
Cool.
downloads. Yeah.
Hi, people. I'm curious to see how it is. Hello, everyone. My
I
name
wonder
is
how many
Moves Johnson, and you should come and listen to my songs.
Yeah, I wonder how many will stand till the end of the episodes.
Buy my shit and leave me alone. No.
Leave a
that's-
comment. Leave a comment.
No. Yeah, please like and subscribe. You do great work. Like, seriously, thank you to
man.
the Son of a Pigeon podcast. I mean that. Like, this is awesome work. I reached out to you because I really like the quality of what you do. These are real conversations that you have with people. They're really... There's a connectivity that even I, as the listener, was experiencing when I heard.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no, it's really... And it's fun to be here. Like, I'm really digging the vibe. This is great.
Yeah, I love this. I make new friends.
Awesome.
and,
Yeah,
you know,
right? Yeah, it's cool. But that's what I mean. Like when I go and perform on stage, like I'm not there to make new friends. I'm there to do my job. Like 9 out of 10 times if I play music, I'm at work. And it's kind of sad in one way where, because, you know, there's always
Is it songs that you play or is it songs that you need to play?
both. Like both.
If it's your own song, I think it's different. The
It's
interaction
different,
afterwards.
but it's still work. Like it's still like, look at it this way: if I'm playing in a wedding gig or at this like at a hostel gig as a background thing, if it's like a bar band type deal, then it's really properly just work. Like
Yeah.
then it's just cover songs. Maybe I can sneak in 1 or 2 of my own ones and stuff. But like I said, at the end of the day, I don't write songs with the intention of other people liking them. If other people like them, that's a compliment. Like I'm happy that you took something away from my art, but like I write songs that I want to listen to, and if you also want to listen to it, then cool. Like it's on Spotify. Great, cool. I'm glad. That's yeah. So like, but that also comes down to like I don't necessarily want to listen to my songs all the time. Like I like other people's music and stuff like this. So if I go to like an open mic, it's at the point now where I can play like when, depending on the place I go to play or the people who are there. Oh, do this song, or I like it when you play this song. Yeah, but I'm not. There's one guy always says, "Oh, I always put you on in the middle because there's always somebody who's very quiet and very tame and very like they sing like this, and it's very, you know." And then you come and you're loud and you've got energy. So I always put you on after these people. Yeah, but what happens when I'm in a mood where I want to be quiet? Like what happens when I want to be sad today? And like so you still don't necessarily get to play what you want to hear or what your soul needs to express necessarily. I try when I go like that's for me that's what an open mic is. For me that's what like these kostenlos gigs are is like, yeah, if you're not paying for it, then you're getting the mood that I'm in right now. I don't care if you like this song or if you've heard this song. This is for me. But like, yeah, like a lot of the time, then somebody wants to talk to you about it, or they want to, oh, I really like that you did that. We play with the violin a lot, or like a weird, it's not just a bass drum guitar arrangement, right? Like we have these other instruments. I play mandolin and stuff. And people always want to come up and they like mandolin players are weird, and they always want to talk about like weird bluegrass songs and awkward mandolin tunings. I don't care. I like the sound of the instrument. It's a lot of fun to play. And frankly, anytime I whip it out, people put extra money in the hat. Like it's got a practical use for me as like in my career. It is a tool that gives me and I'm sure the mandolin has helped you through some terrible times in your life, and it, like, but like that's not why I'm here. And
don't talk to Move Johnson after concert.
It's not about that. It sounds really like I hate that. But it's just a little bit. Devin Townsend. I saw Strapping Young Lad once, and Devin Townsend's an amazing musician, right?
Yeah, he's incredible.
And he walked off stage, like he played the last song, and genuinely, buy our shit and leave us alone. And like we're not gonna be at the merch tent after. Like, I did my gig. Like, go away. I don't care what you think about my view on music. And I'm happy to talk about music. Like, I haven't shut up since I sat down and you turned this mic on. And I'm happy to talk about music with people that bring that out of me, with like-minded individuals, with people I can nerd out. But like, if I'm at the bar on a Tuesday night, like, that's what it is. I'm at the bar on a Tuesday night. Like, if I get to, if me playing some songs gets me a couple of free beers, then cool. Like, I would rather do that than pay you money. But like, it's not like, now we got to talk about, like, oh, I want to arrange. It's always been my dream to do this, and I've always wanted to. Wouldn't it be cool if we could make this? Like, it's not the time for me in that moment. It's not the vibe that I'm going for, and I find more and more, especially lately, I like the character of Moves Johnson is who I have to be when I go onto the stage, and this person was originally just the first band I played in. We all had fun stage names because it was cute and it was fun, and we were 15, and you know, the bass player was called Anthony Funkenstein, you know, like it was just silly little jokes.
Great name.
Yeah, and the name just sort of stuck. And then the more I've learned how to perform and be an artist, it's been like now Moves Johnson comes with a personality and comes with a character, and that's not necessarily the character that I have. That's not necessarily who I am. It's who the brand is. It's who this person on the stage is. And that's what I mean, is it's not like when you say, oh, the music is the talking, like exactly that. Like yes. I'll do, if I sing a song about like conspiracy theories, or if the word Illuminati comes up in a song, and then suddenly everybody's got like, oh, and what do you think about COVID and wearing masks? And what do you think about the reptilians? That's not why I said it. Like, I didn't want it. I have no interest in having that conversation now, like with people. Maybe I did at first when I first put it in a song, but that's not why I'm here on the stage. Like, I'm not preaching. I'm not here to convert people to my cult. I'm here because this job is better than, I have tried so many jobs. This is the best one for me. And I like it, and I'm not gonna give it up without a fight. And but like at the end of the day, it's a job, and
yeah,
like you got to practice. Like, whether it's my own song or whether it's a song somebody else wrote, I still got to practice. I still have to go through the instruments, and what I want to practice for me, for my growth, for my soul, is not necessarily what I need to practice to keep the checks coming in. And so yeah, like it's very much there's got to be a division somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's good to put the boundaries as well.
Yeah.
And talking about boundaries, we need to put the boundary on this.
Are we on
podcast.
time? Yeah, I saw you looking at your phone. Yeah.
Yeah, my phone was off actually. And
Fair enough.
I need to be somewhere in half an hour, which I think will not
Did we go over? Oh man. Oh damn.
Yeah, it
oh
was
shit.
a good call. It was a cool. It
I
was a
really
good talk. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you very much
I really
for having me.
enjoyed all this information that you shared here and all the different perspectives that we went through.
I hope I didn't just ramble nonsensically.
No, man, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Podcast. Yeah.
Dude.
How can people find you?
You can find me on Spotify, Moves Johnson. There's movesjohnson.com. It's moves_Johnson on Instagram, at moves_Johnson. But basically, if you type in Moves Johnson onto Google, like, I'm the first two pages. I don't think there's anybody else with this name.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Go follow, go send likes, send comments. If you listened all the way here, somehow let me know, either in the podcast, on Spotify, or comment on
Yeah,
Instagram
if you
or
guys have
something.
made it this far, this was a long talk. Thank
I'm
you very much,
curious
guys.
to know about it.
Yeah. And if you're interested, if there's people in Berlin that are looking to make some music, I do have a studio. I do produce. I'm a
Great
recording
studio.
engineer. You've been in it before.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's like, please hit me up if you want to collaborate and make some art. Like I do like making art, despite the last 5 minutes of me rambling. I love it.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming here.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Ciao, everyone.
Yo, look at that lady, she on top and walking around like she's calling the shots. Terminator, see you later. High tech with jetpacks and lightsabers, chilling on the dark side like Darth Vader. Ain't no savior, push the fader, check all the sounds of the lights and the lasers. That kind of music won't get played here. It ain't clear to me what you came to see, but it seems like you expected some kind of fiend with a glass eye, metal thigh, teeth of green. The kind you see cuffed on late TV. Now everybody make a sound for the bass man bouncing in the basement. The Outlaws came and you thought they were black. That makes you a racist. DJ, do your thing. Give this track a facelift. Yo, check it out. She's got a car and a house with a pool, 12 rooms and a walk-in shower. And if there weren't enough reason to shout, every year she makes over 800,000. Throw your hands up to the sounds if you're able. Flip that switch, turn that table. This is for the confident, the cool, and the capable, cause God knows everyone else is unsavable. Let's get creative, girl, out the narrative so we can get crazy with the flow. And the ladies say, oh, we wanna have your babies, but lately I've been feeling it's cause they just at that age, so I say no. And then we take that stage and we take you right back to 1978. I must admit I feel a little ashamed. That's twice now I stopped singing about that dame. You must have the wrong impression. She ain't got no misdirection and she don't handle objections well. Who you don't know who you're messing, who you don't know who you're messing, who you don't know who you're messing with. You must have the wrong impression. She ain't got no misdirection and she don't handle objections well. You must have the wrong impression. Who you don't know who you're messing, who you don't know who you're messing with. It ends there anyway. I screwed up right at the end. Fuck. We used to fight. I have no idea why. When we used to disagree, we couldn't just settle on a tie. Now that it's over, I don't know why we let it end. Now that it's over, I think that's the best we ever did. It's like the death of the arcade. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Like the death of the arcade, you don't see the lights till they've shut off. We ate pills, chasing ghosts down a hall. We got locked in a maze all summer long. Powered up on pellets that made us way too overzealous. We tried to start a rebellion, then ran out of time and melted. Like the death of the arcade, my dreams are dead like VHS. Like the death of the arcade, but I'm still stuck in 16-bit. out a two-dimensional attack. After years of slaying dragons, scaling castle walls, I finally found my sweet princess, and I eat peaches all night long. Like the death of the arcade, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Like the death of the arcade, you don't see the lights till they've turned off. Like the death of the arcade, my dreams are dead like VHS. Like the death of the arcade, but I'm still stuck in 16-bit. Oh yeah.
Sound of the Pigeon podcast. Sound of the Pigeon podcast.
Son of a Pigeon podcast.